Hi everyone, Xeno What If here. To bring in part 54 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia S02. Link down in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here, YouTube. I do not own anything and I don't own anything. Chapter 105, Bye Bye Babylon. Mirko was exhausted. On the one hand, she usually loved the feeling. It reminded her of how much work she put in being a hero. Reminded her about how alive she was. The sensation of being drenched in her own sweat reassured her that all of the effort she gave wasn't for nothing. But in this case, her being wiped was a bad thing, because the pretenders were still standing. Sure, they were visibly tired, too, but their enhanced bodies ensured that they wouldn't get as tired as their human opponents. Thus herself, Budo, Jinx and Snipe were all battered and beaten, kneeling on the road while Springer and Snake Eyes continued the fight. And even then, those two were starting to get overwhelmed as well, Snake Eyes more so after Octopunch grabbed him and socked him straight across the head. "No!" Jinx cried out. "Master!" Budo shouted, seeing the ninja tumble across the ground toward them. Thankfully, he was still conscious, but it was obvious that he was dazed, his head spinning in circles. Hey. Iguanus cackled with glee. "Excellent. Now, how about we shish kebab you for good measure?" As the lizard mutant scraped his claws, Submarauder pulled his sword back out. "My sentiments exactly, old chum." Seeing this made Springer's anger spike. "You bastards." As he struggled against Stranglehold, he launched both Sawback and Fangblade off of him and they crashed into Iguanus and Submarauder, stopping the duo from closing in on the group. Summoning all his strength, he pushed Stranglehold back and kicked him off, moving to defend the humans. "If you think you've won, you should not underestimate a wrecker." "Ahaha. Funny, because you seem to be just as beat as the rest of them over there," Octopunch stated, as Skullgrin and Bomb Burst joined him. At the same time, Stranglehold stood up, snorting and flaring his nostrils in rage. "Unfortunately, we're still plenty ready to go, attack." The pretenders began their charge, and Springer was about to reach behind him and pull out his rifle, when something shocking happened. KRCK crack crackle crack. FWOOOOOM. From out of nowhere, a wall of ice and fire suddenly erupted between the two sides, much to the shock of everyone. Springer, the triple changer and his compatriots whipped their heads out across the water, to see Shoto sliding across an ice bridge toward them. Once he landed on the bridge, he rushed over to help them up. "Are you all alright?" "Shoto, what the hell are you doing back here?" Springer exclaimed. I thought you left with RC, Snipe added in confusion. The half-cold, half-hot user nodded. "I did, but some things happened." "Well, a lot of things happened. Good news first, B's back in the fight." Hearing that made Mirko's ears perk up. "Huh, nice. How's the little guy holding up?" "Well, he's not so little anymore, let's put it that way." Shoto shook his head. "Just as big, though. We managed to get away down to the ship in the Energon cavern below the city. Long story on that one." "Hey, so long as we get to that ship before the cons." Springer grinned. "So, why'd you come back here?" His question made Shoto pause for a moment. "I had a bad feeling is all. Just something in my gut didn't set right leaving you guys here." "Well, you were right to trust it." The sudden voice speaking up from behind made the group all spin around in astonishment, where they saw Blitzwing start to stand up once again. Shadow Striker was awake, too, but thanks to her legless state, she could only prop herself up against the nearest car. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*, because now I'm going to reduce you to molten slag. Picking up his element gun, Blitzwing aimed it at the humans and Springer. CHYOOM. Only for a ground bridge to immediately open over the water next to the bridge. What Z, crash, Much to the mad Decepticons' dismay, as well as the shock of those down below, none other than Jetfire came blasting out from the portal and careened right into him. And if that weren't enough, the Autobot's second in command pulled a sharp turn up high into the air and transformed, grabbing Blitzwing by the neck. "Sorry to break it to ya, Blitz Brain, but you're about to get a real lesson taught to ya." "Jetfire!" the humans and Springer exclaimed. "Jetfire!" *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*, woohoo. Now it's a real party. With his demented face out, Blitzwing pushed Jetfire away and transformed into his jet mode, with his tank turret underslung on his belly. Try dodging ZIS, fly boy. Ahahaha. Bursts of fire and ice were shot out at the aerial expert, but Jetfire masterfully bobbed and weaved around them all. He then transformed back into his jet mode and shot straight past Blitzwing, leaving him utterly stunned. Huh. Woohoo. May wasn't kidding, this speed boost rocks. Now behind his opponent, Jetfire assumed robot mode again, and began glowing with a familiar red power that shot straight into the sky. Cyber Key Power. Once the energy key plugged into his back, Jetfire's boosters split open and he leaned forward as the blasters powered up. How about ya dodge this? BWAAAAAMM. Ka-boom. As it happened, Blitzwing could not dodge in time and he was shot straight out of the sky, nosediving directly into the wall of ice and fire that Shoto had created. Crash landing flat on his back in robot mode, the bridge now had a perfectly shaped Blitzwing-sized crater, with small fires and tiny bits of melting ice surrounding him. Mine, heads, all his faces seemed to speak all at once before he finally lost consciousness. On the sidelines, Shadow Striker grit her teeth and punched the ground with her one remaining arm. Merde, but then, she caught sight of the pretenders, their way now fully cleared. Don't just stand there, you fools. Do something. Alright, come on, men, Octopunch urged, his team all readily brandishing their weapons. The heroes and Springer remained on their guard as Jetfire landed alongside them, all ready to keep fighting. Let's end this once and for ACH. Og. But suddenly, and without explanation, the pretenders began to convulse and scream out in pain, their bodies beginning to shrink and contort unnaturally, back into their natural forms. No. Don't tell me, it's been 3 hours already. Damn it. Skullgrin growled as he went back to just being a skeleton man. We were so close. Around him, Bomb Burst, Iguanus, Stranglehold and Submarauder had returned to their natural human forms, too, and they were not too happy. Now, their weapons were too heavy to lift properly, and their armor barely fit them anymore. All in all, they looked a bit awkward. And Mirko found it hilarious. Ahahaha. Oh okay, now this was worth all the ass kicking we had to put up with. You will all pay for, CHYOOM*, huh? However, Octopunch was cut off when yet another ground bridge opened up behind him. This time, though, it was quite evident that it wasn't more backup for the Autobots. Because, causally strolling through, came none other than Silas. The leader of MECH approached his comrades with his hands behind his backs, his countenance serious as he addressed them. Otto, everybody, stand down. It's time to pull back. He narrowed his eyes at them. We're done here. What? Bomb Burst exclaimed. See, you can't be serious. I am. Most of the Decepticon forces have been badly beaten, and Flatline has ordered most of the main ones back to the dark side for immediate repairs. Setting his sights toward the Autobots, he extended a hand toward the incapacitated Decepticons, right as a small platoon of worker Viacons emerged from the vortex. So, if you'll allow us to take those two back with us, we will leave peacefully. Springer narrowed his optics right back at Silas. And why should we? What's stopping us from trying to bring you in? Crockett THOOOOOM. Beneath their feet, the bridge began to shake as, off in the distance, the Decepticon ship Desolation came flying over and opened up its hull, unleashed 6 massive objects down into the city. Seeing this, Silas remarked, I believe that would be your answer. It seems Unicronus is still trying to level the city. While the bots and humans were stunned by the sight, Jinx sent Silas a questioning eye. What do you mean, still, trying? Well, if you ask me, this whole operation is a complete bust, he elaborated. Why do you think we're all evacing to the dark side and not the Desolation? As you can see, it's already on fire, likely won't be long until it spreads. Silas's grimace deepened. The only reason it's still here is because Unicronus somehow thinks he can salvage this, which I doubt. Using her one arm to prop herself up, Shadow Striker agreed. Ziz is a lost cause. Better to just, She gasped as she suddenly lost her balance, only for Springer to catch her on the way down. You will never speak of Ziz to anyone. We'll see about that, Springer countered, before unceremoniously throwing Shadow Striker through the ground bridge. See ya. You green-plated swine. The assassin's insult was cut off as she flew through the portal, followed close behind by Blitzwing, whom Jetfire tossed right over the pretenders' heads. Ah, are you mad? Octopunch snapped. Behind his visor, Jetfire's own scowl intensified. Kinda, yeah. Now get outta here before we change our minds. Octopunch seemed ready to challenge him on that, but thankfully, Silas placed a firm hand on his shoulder, reining him in. And eventually, the pretenders turned around and made their way through the ground bridge, leaving the bots and humans to themselves. Though not for long, because not only did a certain Autobot ship come flying overhead, but the sounds of approaching engines from behind caught their attention, too. Driving across the bridge came none other than Bulkhead, Sideswipe and Sunstreaker, along with Eraser flying up above them. Also with them was a blue Cybertronian coupe that made Jetfire tilt his head. Huh, so I guess the cavalry's arrived, he deduced. Yeah, big time. Springer waved down his friend. Bulk. Springs. Letting out his passengers, Bulkhead transformed and went up to his brother in arms, the two giving each other a hearty shake. Haha, and Jets. Great to see ya back in action. Jetfire reached out and gave Bulk a fist bump, followed by Sides and Sunny. Ha, good to be back, guys, he trailed off when he saw the blue femme approaching with Eraser, and he did a double take as he recognized her. Glyph. In turn, Glyph brightened up when she saw him as well. Jetfire. Oh, it's been so long. Friend of yours, I take it? Shoto inquired. Yep. Jetfire gave a thumbs up. Back when I was, briefly a scientist, she and I were colleagues. But then certain things happened and, well, you can guess what happened. Glyph placed her hands on her hips. If by, what happened, you mean you briefly joined the Decepticons and we almost had a falling out if it weren't for your change in conscience. With hands raised, Jetfire defended himself. Hey, it was literally only for, like, a couple days at most. Mistakes happen, right? The femme simply rolled her optics and gave him a small nudge. Relax. We're fine, Jetfire. And so are we. Mina chimed in as she, Eijiro, Tetsu, Abara and Denki gathered up. We gave those cons something to remember us by, that's for sure. Haha. I was wondering how our little hopeful wreckers were doing. Springer knelt down near Mina and Kirishima, seeing them covered in scuffs, grime and cuts but overall, still standing. And would ya look at that? Signs of survival are written all over ya now. Far as I'm concerned, you've earned those. Eijiro gave the triple changer a thumbs up. Hey, thanks Springs. We're just glad we could help out today. However, his brows knit together when he noticed that this was a bit of an odd group. Hey, hold on a sec, Springer, Todoroki, weren't you with Arcee's team? Hey, yeah, Denki pointed over to Mirko. And Midoriya and Jiro were supposed to be with you. Plus Roadbuster, Jazz and Bakugo. Where the heck did they go? Mirko rolled her eyes and jerked her thumb toward the other side of the bridge. PSH, some dude came and took him, said that he knew a way down to that giant ship or something. Eraser tilted her head. What do you mean by, some dude? He was being really cryptic. Budo pointed out. And he also had the ability to do things that I haven't seen any other quirk be able to do. He reversed time and summoned a motorcycle out of nowhere. That's strange. Crust pointed out as he, Midnight, Quick Kick, Kamui Woods and Smintos approached the other adults. Did you get his name? He called himself Ace. Jinx stated, sharing a brief look with snake eyes. Though to be honest, I'm a bit wary of all this myself. RC and the others might have gone with them, but I don't exactly trust them either way. However, Jetfire was quick to brush off the concerns. I don't think you've gotta worry about that. RC's doing pretty fine, last I heard. He raised a finger, adding, in fact, while I was leaving, she called and asked Signal Flare to bring all the energon he could down to the ship, so I'm guessing that Ace Guy didn't steer him wrong. Abara laced her hands together with a happy smile. Well, that's certainly good news. And it gets better. Shoto spoke up, finally getting a word in. Bumblebee's back up and going, too. An elated gasp traveled through the crowd all at once. He is. Midnight placed a hand over her chest. Oh, what a relief, and what about the others? B took Midoriya, Jiro and two new bots to the main fight. Shoto nudged his chin across the city where the desolation hovered. Which I'm guessing is over there. Well, what are we waiting for? Mackenzie exclaimed with fists clenched. Let's head over there and help 'em. Up above their heads, the recon ship lowered down and spun around to face the whole group. I dunno who just said that, but I'm with ya. Tap Out said, the green bot waving out to the team through the front windshield. I'll head up and see if I can't do some more damage to that ship. Autobots, let's wreck and roll. As Tap Out pulled back up into the air, Mina eyed her partner and pointed after him. I like that dude. He knows what's up. Hey, he sure does. Bulkhead concurred. But you heard him, bots. Roll for it. Meanwhile, the best way to describe the battle at City Hall was with 2 words, utter chaos. The destroyer-class Viacons, all about the same size as Seaspray, had assumed their robot modes and were making headway into the city, though the smaller Autobots were making sure to get in their way as much as possible. They might not have been able to stop them outright, but they were intent on holding them off for as long as they had ammo to spare. And, thankfully, they still had plenty, especially as Strongarm combined with the Mini-Con Council once more. I don't often say things like this, but, come and get some. With her battle cry, the cadet unleashed a barrage of artillery upon one destroyer, managing to make it stagger back. But even so, that's all she managed to do, with it regaining its footing and aiming its arm cannons at her the next second. Gah! Pow pow pow! Cadet, I don't think a direct attack like that is gonna, wait. Just as Scythe was about to offer an alternate plan, he spotted that the chest plate of the gigantic Decepticon had been blown off, and its T-cog was now fully exposed. Never mind. Everyone, keep aiming at the chests. What? Flare Up exclaimed. Are you daft? That's where their armor is the thickest. But that's when Grimlock saw the exposed destroyer as well, and he was fully on board. No, wait. He's onto something here. Just because the armor is thick doesn't mean it's sturdy. He reached behind him and pulled out his sword, the long blade folding out and gleaming with energy. Shockwave thinks he's smart and makes mechanical marvels, but his creations actually have a lot of design flaws. Raw. As the Dinobot leader began slashing and Strongarm kept blasting, the remaining bots were, less than thrilled. Oh, well that's just great. Blur called out. What are the rest of us who don't have ultra-powerful weapons do? We improvise, soldier. Yukio roared as she swooped in from above, careening shoulder first into one of the destroyers. Kata, with me. You got it. Taking a deep breath, Kata focused herself once again and charged straight in without any fear, this time focusing on a different dinosaur. Ankylosaur, Ankylosaur, Ankylosaur. All at once, her body again began to feel much heavier, though rather than the weight being mostly focused on her head, this time it was evenly spread across her back and over the club tail that emerged from her rear. And again, she was reduced to all fours, her legs short and stubby compared to the rest of her as her mouth took the shape of a flat beak. Gra-o-r-r-r. Whoop-pang. With a single swing, Kata the Ankylosaurus struck the destroyer in its knee and made it crumple, allowing Yukio to come in and slash at its chest even further. The Khan attempted to swat her away, raising its arm cannons with a baneful yell. Get off of me. Pow pow, but with amazing speed, Yukio flew away from the blasts, wherein Grimlock came charging at him in Dino mode and breathed fire on the destroyer's face. Yah! Kra chomp. With the metal plating heated, Grimlock was easily able to tear the armor off, and then he bite right into the destroyer's transformation cog, ripping it out of its chest. Raw-ah! Me Grimlock want to munch metal. And I wanna bash metal. Swinging her tail again, Kata struck the downed destroyer in its chest, causing sparks to fly all over the place. That might be bad, actually. Run! Yukio hollered, prompting her comrades to do just that. And then, KRATHOOOOOOM. The destroyer was reduced to flying limbs all over the place, the 2 dinosaurs and the dragon staring at the scene in astonishment. Well, guess it worked. Kata concluded. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Grimlock transformed and crouched down next to her, and although Kata couldn't see it, he was beaming with pride. It sure did. And it looks like that's not the only thing that worked. He reached down and placed his hand upon her armored back. Just when were you gonna tell me about this? With a sheepish expression, Kata reverted back to her human form, twiddling her thumbs with a small laugh. Ah hee hee, yeah, that's kind of a very recent thing. I actually first did it a little while ago when I was dealing with C, but then, her eyes widened in realization. Oh my god, Silas. We forgot about Silas. Ah, yes, Grimlock uttered regrettably. There was so much happening that he must have slipped our minds. And slipped away as a result. Yukio added, though she placed a reassuring claw on Keita's shoulders. But don't worry, Keita. He'll get his at some point. Right now, let's focus on the battle at hand here. Keita gave a resolute nod and the trio stormed off, ready to help Strongarm with her destroyer. As that was happening, though, Edgeshot and MT Lady were having a comparatively harder time with their destroyers, mainly because they had caught on to the trick. Now, the large Decepticons were going out of their way to protect their upper bodies from all damage, much to the hero's chagrin. And if that weren't frustrating enough, Lizardy, Ingenium and Big Fist were sidelined with Eraserhead, who had deemed the conflict much too overwhelming. This sucks, Setsuna exclaimed. I'm aware, Aizawa said, watching on as Tiger Claw and Kamakura engaged their own destroyer with their combined quirks. But think about this, how would your quirks be able to match against opponents of that size and power? Not to mention, now that they know their weakness, they'll do anything to protect it. He gave the kids a stern eye. That includes taking your lives. And I'll be damned if I don't get you children home safely to your families. A fair point, Eraser. Tenya conceded. But my partner is out there risking her life to protect mine, forgive me if I feel a bit useless. At that moment, a certain voice piped up from behind. Better to feel useless than to be not alive. The trio whipped around and were met by a welcomed sight, Roller and the Street Action Minicon team. I know that Optimus would feel the same way. The Minicon leader stated. Roller. Tenya and Itsuka exclaimed. High wire. Setsuna practically leapt into a hug, relieved at the sight of her partner. High wire reciprocated, almost stumbling backward. Setsuna, hi. Boy, am I glad to see you're okay. I was worried. So was I, ya big dork. The green-haired girl knocked him on the side of his helm, turning towards Sershock and Grinder. About all of you guys. Appreciate the kind words, but I think we've got a bigger problem. Grinder shouted, pointing up above their heads as heavy footfalls approached. The group spun around and were left gawking as one of the destroyers loomed over them, its arm cannon already charging up. Hee hee hee, well look what we've got here, the large Viacon aimed its weapon at them. Electro Sheep ready for the slaughter. WHRRRRRRR. But right as he was about to shook, a high-pitched whirring noise caught the Khan's attention. Huh, where's that? Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. The brute didn't even get to finish his sentence as bullets began whizzing over the humans and mini-cons, shredding through the destroyer's armor without any problem. Auk. With his chest plate reduced to scrap, it quickly shifted its cannon down the street and started firing at its new target, Roadbuster. Yeah, that's right, Chunky. The wrecker taunted as he rolled out of the way, all while holding an absolutely massive gun. It was a Gatling gun that had 3 8-barreled chambers, being fed onto top and both sides with belts of ammunition. Come in, get me. Roadbuster. Tenya exclaimed, only for the destroyer to suddenly transform back into its tank mode. BWAAAAAM it shot at Roadbuster with all 6 of its cannons, though the munitions expert himself quickly transformed and drove as fast as he could out of the way. But with its transformation, the destroyer's exposed T-cog was now on the back of its tank mode, meaning Roadbuster didn't have a clear shot anymore. And with its rotating turret, the Viacon made sure that he didn't have a chance to get to it. Just try that again, Wrecker. I dare ya. Ahahaha, VRRRRMM asterisk, huh. From out of nowhere, however, a certain green motorbike came zooming past the humans and swiftly transformed, taking hold of her hammer as she shot at the destroyer. I'll take that bet. Moonracer hollered as the rocket on her hammer kicked to life. Hiya. Crash she struck the exposed T-cog and, within seconds, the destroyer's systems began overloading. No. No, 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 boom its protests did nothing to save him as he exploded into several pieces, leading the Street Action Minicon team to combine and cast a force field over everyone to protect them. Is everyone alright? Safeguard asked after the pieces stopped raining down. Why yeah, we're good. Itsuka affirmed, her gaze drifting over to Moonracer as she strolled over while spinning her hammer around. The young femme was also humming a little tune to herself, which annoyed the redhead a bit. "Hey, what the heck was that? You trying to get us hurt or something?" Moonracer promptly stopped mid-step and her optics darted down to the group, suddenly feeling quite sheepish. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you guys down there. Isn't that always the case?" Roller replied sarcastically. The Velocitronian bowed her head apologetically. "Sorry. I'll try to do better." "Hey!" A gasp leapt out of Moonracer's throat as Roadbuster hailed her, still carrying his huge Gatling gun. "You, with the hammer. Where'd ya get that?" Oh, this." Moonracer lifted her hammer up, suddenly feeling a fearful tingle go up her spinal cord. "It was given to me as a gift, by a bot named Leadfoot." And then, Roadbuster let out a soft chuckle. "Hey, had a feelin'. I knew I recognized Leadfoot's hammer when I saw ya pull it out." He reached out and placed a hand on its head. "So he gave it to you before he passed, eh?" "Why yeah, it's a long story. One that I can't wait to hear." Roadbuster nudged his head toward the battle at large. "For now, though, why don't we take this fight away from the humans? We've got a lot of reckin to do here. What's her name, kid?" With a dutiful salute, she replied, "Moonracer, sir." Nice to meet ya. Name's Roadbuster. Now let's get movin'." "Yes, sir. Just watch where you step, or else we'll be the ones caught underfoot." Her words left the wrecker perplexed. "The hell are you talkin' abo, whoa. Thoom. It didn't take long for him to find his answer, though, as Devastator and Defensor came stomping across the battlefield. The two combiners were locked in head-to-head combat, grappling against one another as the City Hall grounds practically became their wrestling ring. With intermittent punches and kicks, they traded blows while stumbling across the open area, which made every other Autobot and Decepticon have to watch themselves to make sure they didn't get stomped on. Even the destroyers were careful to make sure they didn't get kicked. The whole scene left Roadbuster scratching his head. Well I'll be damned. Yeah, it's been like this for a little bit. Moonracer nodded. Well, it'll at least solve our Devastator problem for a bit. Roadbuster nudged his head toward a pair of destroyers that Flare Up and Applink were still trying to work over. The Scout was doing her thing, zipping around and distracting them with pistol shots, while Applink was having a bit more success in unleashing electrical blasts into them. Come on, those two look like they could use a hand. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, a much more personal fight was occurring. Kyoka had wasted no time in getting Blur to charge in against Soundwave after the Protectobots had finished combining, and the moment they went in, it wasn't even a contest. Soundwave had unleashed his worst against the two, making Kyoka's hands clamp down over her ears in utter agony. Blur had only just barely found a way out and sped off in a direction that hopefully Soundwave couldn't follow, stopping on top of a building. Okay, maybe charging in wasn't the best plan, the speedster stated with a bit of unkindness toward Kyoka. What exactly was your idea here? I was gonna give him a taste of his own medicine with my quirk. Kyoka said matter-of-factually. But you went in so damn fast that I didn't even get a chance. Well, weren't you the one who asked ME to get to that guy? Ya should have known what you were getting into. And maybe you should know that things on this planet normally don't go as fast as you. Before their argument could continue, though, pardon me. On cue, the two snapped their heads around, shouting, "What?" only to be met with Soundwave in his bomber plane mode, much to their chagrin. Foo, UUUUCK. Within seconds, Blur picked the punk rocker up and zoomed back down to street level, though the communications officer simply followed behind while shooting at them with his underslung sonic cannon. Okay, new plan, we'll outrun him. Blur stated. He's fast, but he's not faster than me. Oh no, screeching to a halt, Blur suddenly found himself faced with a new problem. A wall of Predacons and Starscream blocking his way down the street. Skybite, Gas Skunk, Slapper and Darkscream all cackled with glee as the Seeker beckoned him to come forward. Oh, please, don't stop on our account. Starscream smirked. Please, do come closer. Snapping his jaws, Gas Skunk added, so we can have you both for lunch. Ahahaha. Asterisk WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT asterisk transforming into robot mode, Soundwave landed behind the duo, causing them to spin toward him. "Ha, it's like I said, Miss Jiro, you should have just known when to give up. Soundwave superior. You are inferior. End of story." With fists and teeth clenched tight, Kyoka spat back. "I don't care how superior you are to me, asshole." Her declaration gave Soundwave pause, but she just kept going. "What I do care about is the fact that you tricked me into putting my entire damn school in danger. I'm not even out of my first year there yet and now this happens. How the hell do you think that makes me feel?" At this point, she was starting to tear up, her voice beginning to break. "Pretty fucking crappy, that's how. So keep going on about your superiority, but know that I will never forgive you for what you've done. Ever." Things were left fairly silent for the next few seconds, only for Slapper to comment, "Wow, you really made her mad, Soundwave." "Wow, you think?" Dark screamed deadpanned. Blur, however, was starting to feel guilty for his earlier actions. "Oh, geez, MHA, Kyoka, was it?" The earphone jack user glanced at him. "Sorry. I was a pretty big jerk to you, and you didn't deserve it. Not after all that." Kyoka's expression softened and she let out a soft sigh. "Blur, it's not your fault. I've just had a really shitty day, sorry for biting your head off, too." She sent him a soft smile. "Now, how about we kick these guys' AFTS back to where they came from?" "Hey, you got it." Blur and Kyoka shared a fist bump, before rushing off and disappearing from the con's view. What? Starscream raised his arms on either side of him, keeping a sharp optic out. "Be on alert. They could pop up at any, yow." And just like that, Blur reappeared and kicked Starscream in the backside, sending him tumbling straight into Skybite. Starscream, you imbecile, get off me." The Sharkticon bellowed before his fellow Predacons helped him out, by literally tossing Starscream off of him. "Ha, thank you. Now as for you." He thrust his arms out, deploying his torpedo mini-cons. "Get 'em, boys." Dragonus and Sandsting rocketed off at high speeds toward the duo, but they proved to be not fast enough as Blur shot forth again and grabbed them out of midair, and changed their course right back to the Predacons. "AAAH. Gas Skunk cried out, "Scatter." And the group leapt out of the way, aside from Starscream, who was still picking himself up. "You cretins. How dare you, boom. Yeah." The Seeker commander was promptly sent careening once more, and hit yet another building, smashing his head through the wall. Why does this keep happening? With a disappointed sigh, Soundwave resigned to the inevitable, he'd have to handle this himself. Such incompetence. He reached up to his shoulder and opened his chest drawer. Laserbeak, eject. Operation, Sharpshooter. With a shrill screech, Laserbeak deployed from his master and quickly began firing down at Blur. But once again, the Velocitronian was too fast to be hit, until Soundwave unleashed his own widespread sonic attack, bringing them to a stop. BWAAAAAAAM. GYAAAH. Kyoka's hands flew up to her ears, but she found herself suddenly thrown off of Blur as Laserbeak finally hit him, bringing them both to the ground. Crack! Ow! She landed on her arm, and it quickly became evident that something had happened. She wasn't sure if it was a fracture or a full break, but Kyoka was now in agonizing pain. Blur gasped as her scream cut through the area, all while Soundwave approached them. Laserbeak flew down and perched on his arm as he took aim at the two with his blaster. And thus, we come to the inevitable end. Farewell. Honk honk. However, before Soundwave could pull the trigger, a loud horn caught his attention, and to his astonishment, he was met with a battalion of Autobots coming straight toward him. Leading the pack was Bulkhead, followed by Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, and then Glyph bringing up the rear. Then, high above, Jetfire, Springer and Erazor came flying overhead, the former shooting straight over Soundwave's head along with the recon ship piloted by Tap-Out. But while the green Autobot pulled up to engage the Desolation, Jetfire transformed and landed right next to Starscream, yanking him straight out of the building and onto his back. Gah! Who dares? CHKT *. The Seeker was promptly silenced when he was met with a rifle in his face, and his former friend glowering down at him. Oh, Jetfire, where've you been? Gettin' fixed. Jetfire jabbed his blaster into Starscream's cheek. Now call it off, Starscream. If you know what's good for ya. Starscream scowled back up at him. What a vague, empty threat. Unfortunately, it seems this operation has lost the plot, along with Unicronus' common sense. Ya got that right, Bulkhead affirmed, his cannons trained on Soundwave as the twins and Glyph set their own weapons on the Predacons. Silas and most of his gang already flew the coop, and we even got a few of them detained. Oh, fantastic. As the Autobots kept their weapons up, the humans accompanying them quickly rushed over to Kyoka to help her. Jiro. Ajiro hollered, seeing her pained grimace. Kyoka, are you okay? Mina and Abara gently reached down, helping her sit up. The Perplet sucked in a sharp breath, instinctively moving her arm away. Stop. Arm hurt super bad. Pushing her way through the crowd, Jinx knelt down and ushered the girls away. Stay back. This could be serious. She reached down and gently placed a hand on Kyoka's cheek. Don't worry, sweetie. We'll get you out of here. Glancing back, Jinx saw a quick kick follow her, the young woman's eyes full of concern for her junior. Mackenzie, I need you to help me get her jacket off. Gently. Alright, the martial artist joined her teacher by Kyoka's side. Don't worry, Kyo, we're gonna help you. Thanks, THOOM. Kyoka's eyes snapped open as everyone did a double take, whipping their heads around as the ground shook beneath them. You may wanna hurry that up. We're about to have company. Tetsu shifted his eyes around, looking for whatever was causing the rumble. Company. Jiro, what are you? Oh my god. He quickly found his answer as Devastator came shambling around the nearest corner, using a building to support himself while glowering down at the group. Predictably, everyone screamed at the sight. What is that? Denki exclaimed. It's Devastator. Bulkhead hollered. We need to. Ow. But, to their surprise, the green and purple gestalt was yanked back, and Defensor came stomping into view, turning his back toward them to protect the group. To say that the crowd was left completely awestruck was an understatement. What? Smintos exclaimed. What, or, WHO is that? The Autobots, however, were completely ecstatic at his appearance. Defensor. Sideswipe's hands flew up to his helm, gripping on in excitement. Haha, no way. Glyph, you didn't mention you brought the Protectobots with ya. Glyph sent a wink to the team. Yep, surprise. So the Autobots have a combiner of their own, Midnight concluded as Defensor turned his head toward them. Astounding. Little did they know, however, that Defensor was currently scanning the entire group, taking note of their multiple injuries and stamina levels. Needless to say, his concern grew exponentially. Sensing high levels of exhaustion and multiple wounds, his optics eventually landed on Kyoka. Her body splayed out across the street as Jinx and Quick Kick tended to her. Her jacket was now off, and he could see her right arm beginning to swell and turn red near the shoulder. Alert, extensive damage detected. Switching from defensive parameters to high protective protocol. As he droned on, the humans were left perplexed by his form of speech, as was Eraser. Is he okay? She asked. Yeah, that's just how he talks. Sunstreaker assured, watching as the big bot's attention went back toward Devastator. But now watch this. This is where it gets good. The Constructicon Combiner roared as he once more charged at Defensor with arms raised and ready to fight, but the opposing Gestalt was ready for that. He brought his own hands up and proclaimed, initiating Force Field Burst. He thrust both arms forward and, whoop-pow, a sudden blast of energy erupted from his palms in the form of a wall of light, which pushed Devastator so hard that he actually tripped and fell onto a destroyer. Crunch. The large Viacon only gave somewhat of a tortuous scream before its entire head was crushed beneath Devastator, and from there it exploded beneath him. Auk. Defensor will pay. Switching tactics, Devastator pulled off his shoulder-mounted crane and attached one of his drills onto it, intent on driving it straight through Defensor. But then, Defensor raised his right arm. Blades, deploy and distract. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT* launching off of the combiner, blades transformed into a red and white Cybertronian helicopter and immediately started flying circles around Devastator, all while pelting him with laser fire and missiles. Whoa, Now that's awesome, Tetsu cheered. It's not over yet, Jetfire pointed out. Watch this. To the group's astoundment, Defensor detached his left foot and then kicked his leg up, flinging it off in the process. Rook, replace arm. Asterisk WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT asterisk within seconds, the leg that Rook had formed extended out and changed into a heavily armored arm that attached here Blades once was. Blades, return. Then, just as quickly, Blades came back and attached to Defensor's empty knee, his propellers folding up on the shin before the combiner stomped down onto the foot, reattaching it. Scramble complete. No freaking way. Mina was practically bouncing up and down at this point. He can switch his limbs. Devastator, now very angry, went to complete his attack, but the drill simply bounced off of Rook's heavier armored arm, allowing Defensor to get in his next move. Activating photon cannons. From his wrists, the Autobot combiner deployed a pair of arm-mounted cannons that blasted Devastator straight in the face, leaving him paralyzed. And then, from his right hand, Defensor deployed what seemed to be a defibrillator that sparked with electricity. Applying voltage. Clear. Ziza AAAAPP. Throughout Devastator's body, the electricity was expelled and, with one final scream, the combiner was forcibly separated, his limbs blasting off into their component beings. Clattering to the ground, Scrapper and Bonecrusher were left completely incapacitated, and while Hook tried to move, he found himself squashed by the other half of Devastator's torso. Crash, S02. Long haul. Bluff. Finally, Scrapper and Mixmaster landed the closest to the Autobots, and were the most mobile out of their team. Well, that was unpleasant, the latter said. What a bold statement, Scrapper uttered sarcastically. Now get up, we have to form Devastator Aga, thump. But just as he was about to stand, Scrapper was met with a rather big foot in front of him, and it wasn't Defensor's. He slowly craned his head up and was met with a familiar face. Bulkhead. Scrap. The wrecker addressed before nudging his chin toward the other con. Mix. BB Bulkhead. Mixmaster feigned a smile and spread his arms out. What a strange coincidence. What are you doing here, CHKT. But in a split second, the friendly vibes were quashed when Bulkhead aimed his cannons at the two with a stern glare. Oh, this isn't a good reunion, then. Far from it. Now I suggest you take the gang and leave. Bulkhead turned toward Soundwave as well. That goes for all of you. This whole thing is practically over anyways. From under Jetfire's foot, Starscream sneered at the green bot. What do you mean? Springer jerked a thumb up to the desolation. He means that your plan's fallen apart as we speak, Screamer. Most of your team's already evacuated that ship, and your strongest players have fallen. Lugnut, Skullcruncher, Blitzwing, Blastwave, all down for the count. Same goes for Skywarp, Shadow Striker and Slipstream. Sideswipe added with a thumbs down. You dudes are toast. Soundwave was given pause at that. Slipstream, too. He began weighing his options, doing several calculations in his head. Logic dictates that, at this point, it would be prudent to make a tactical retreat. No. All of a sudden, the rockets on Starscream's feet ignited and shot him straight into the air, throwing Jetfire off balance. Gah! Starscream, get back here. Jetfire shot into the air to follow the Seeker, but by then it was too late. Starscream reached up to his helm, contacting the ship. Desolation, this is Starscream. If there are any of you sorry excuses for Decepticons on board, then I command you to activate the warp cannon. Do you hear me? That's a direct order. His dictations were answered almost immediately as, from under the ship's front end, a large door opened up, and an immense cannon slid out, charging up soon after. Down below, the heroes and Autobots were left astonished. What is that thing? Crust exclaimed. Starscream, you idiot! Scrapper hollered. What are you doing? With a matted glare, Starscream raised a clawed hand and proclaimed, if we cannot have the Energon, then no one can. As all of this was happening, Unicronus was in a similarly maddened state, and for very similar reasons. He had done everything in his power to make sure that this plan would go smoothly, and yet now, it was all falling apart. All thanks to an annoying yellow bug. With B-127's return, not only did Prime fight with renewed vigor, but he was now joined by not just All Might, but the annoying, green-haired kid. And it all served to piss him off when they came at him from all angles. He fought furiously, though, intent on ending all of them. Would you all just die already? He bellowed, only to get sucker punched by Bumblebee. Sorry, you know how that went the first time. Be quipped before doing a spin kick to follow up, knocking Rodimus in the abdomen. Izuku. All Might. On cue, the pair came flying in with their fists clenched and pulled back. Are you ready, young Midoriya? All Might bellowed. Always. Izuku affirmed before smacking the left button on his belt. Punch. Together, the mentor and pupil brought their fists forward in a united uppercut straight to Rodimus' chin. Montana. SMAAAAAASH. Wakum. Ow. Rodimus was promptly sent sailing down the street, where Optimus Prime was already waiting. No. But despite the pain he felt, the general kept his grip firm on his sword, raising it and his saw blade up to bring them straight down through Prime's head. But of course, Optimus wasn't about to play that game. He took hold of his ion cannon and aimed right at Rodimus, causing the Khan's optics to widen. Pow! The shot rang out and Rodimus was struck straight in the arm, blowing out a chunk of his armor. As he landed, though, Optimus' own optics widened. Because, rather than blowing a hole through the general, he had only shorn off the black and purple armor, to reveal red armor plating underneath. Ah! He gasped. All Might and Izuku quickly noticed it, too, as did Rodimus himself, who began frantically gripping at the exposed metal. And no. Shifting his buzzsaw hand back to normal, he reached behind him and brought out a silver blaster and started shooting wildly across the street, forcing everyone to duck. You won't get him back. I'll make sure you won't get him back. I need his body. B's optics narrowed in contempt. So you admit you're not him? And no. I am him, oh or am I, gah. His confusion only made Rodimus' blasts more erratic, flailing his arms all over the place in a blind rage. Stop confusing me. I'll kill you all. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Bumblebee rushed forward and transformed, speeding toward Rodimus and ramming into him, knocking him flat on his backside. Prime. Optimus quickly followed up by body slamming the general, walloping him with heavy fists across the face. Release him. The Prime growled wrathfully. Release Hot Rod at once, you malevolent trinket. All Might added, getting in on the beatdown as well. You're not even a real being, are you? You've just been the twisted matrix all along. As the duo beat him down, B looked down to his partner. Izuku, quick, his chest plate. Right, let's go. Rushing forward, the duo made a desperate leap for Rodimus' chest, and that's when things started going wrong. No. Chow! All at once, Rodimus' body began erupting with purple lightning, zapping his four enemies and sending them hurtling back through the air. Izuku and All Might's costumes were left scorched by the ordeal, while Prime and Bumblebee were temporarily paralyzed. I am Rodimus Unicronus. The maddened Khan proclaimed. And there's nothing that's ever going to change. WHRRRRRR. He paused mid-sentence when a loud sound met his audio receptors. He craned his head up, and immediately gaped at the massive warp cannon that was aimed straight down at the city, already charging up. What? Where did that come from? Izuku asked weakly. Prime struggled to his hands and knees, staring up at the giant weapon with frightened optics. A warp cannon, they've gone mad. Rodimus whirled around and defended himself. I have nothing to do with this. He reached up to his comm and shouted, Starscream. What is the meaning of? If we cannot have the Energon, then no one can. The Seeker Commander's declaration could be heard by everyone, and it only made Rodimus angrier. He spun around and went to transform. You damned fool. If that cannon fires, we'll all be, ow. But he was stopped by, shockingly enough, Bumblebee, who had forced himself back to his feet so he could throw Rodimus back down to the ground. Ack, you can't be serious. Do you have any idea what's about to happen? I am. B flexed his neck, bringing his fists up for the fight to come. And I'm not worried. Because at any point now, my friends are gonna be here with something that'll knock your hydraulic pistons off. He sent Rodimus a smirk as Deku, All Might and Prime also returned to their feet. So for now, bring it. Phew, and that's that. As everything was happening up above, Signal Flare had just finished siphoning all of their energon reserves into the massive, sentient ship. A hefty price to pay, for sure, but one that would likely pay off if they could secure the enormous cache of energon just outside of the vessel. He, along with RC and Jazz, stood within the ship's central power core, which was, in fact, a gigantic spark chamber, though they quickly stepped out once the weaponsmith had finished his job. "That's every last drop," Signal Flare stated. "Nice job, SF." Jazz commended before shouting out to the ship. "So, big guy, how are ya feeling now?" "Better. Energon levels have increased to 75%. Parameters, ideal," the ship replied. "However, there is still a problem. Optical sensors rendered at 0% visibility. I can't see." RC gave a knowing smile and nodded. "Yeah, that's because your face is still buried in rock. How about the rest of you, though? Rear thrusters and stabilizers have successfully been unearthed. The organic beings have returned inside. We know that much, Mr. Ship." Ochako piped up as she and the others came walking through the halls toward the Autobots. She sent her partner a smile and salute. "Everything's good to go, RC. We're ready whenever you are." The Femme gave a nod of approval. "Great. Just one more thing." Once more, RC lifted her head and addressed the ship. "How's the Supreme Module?" Just then, a holographic screen appeared in front of her, depicting what could only be described as a train battleship fusion, on treads. The vehicle was outfitted with several mounted dual turrets as well as a rocket thruster at the very back, while the cockpit was sloped down with a jagged cowcatcher at the base. Furthermore, the front and back halves were connected by a large, bulky piece which oddly resembled a pelvis. Supreme Module is fully functional. Katsuki couldn't help but tilt his head. The hell is that?" "It's the ship's land-based module," RC explained. "He can shift his consciousness between the two for different purposes, but the main purpose for it here is purely for its other function." She sent the duo a smirk. "You remember how I said this ship had feet?" She pointed to the Supreme Module on the screen. "These are what I mean. Literally." At that point, Ochako, Katsuki and Ace's group all went wide-eyed. "You're kidding me," Mikanaga uttered. "See, can this thing really?" Neon stammered. "Of course it can," Ace said with a knowing grin of his own. "I sensed it the moment we stepped foot in here, but now comes the next part, getting it out of this cavern without demolishing half of the city." Before RC could even think of a response to that, her comlink suddenly clicked on. "CHHK, red alert to RC. Red alert to RC, do you copy?" Hearing the unusual amount of panic in his voice, RC responded immediately. "RC to red alert, what's going on? I hope you've finished refueling your giant friend, because we need his help now," the medic continued. "Starscream's ordered the Decepticon warship to use its warp cannon to destroy the city and the energon underneath so no one will have it." The news made everyone's eyes widen, but it only got worse from there. "And if that wasn't enough, Kyoka's been hurt. I want to send Marissa through a ground bridge to help her, but..." "What?" Jazz cut in. "Well, what the hell are we waiting for? We gotta get this show on the road." He spun right around and started dashing for the main bridge. "Hold on, Kyo. Jazz is coming for ya." "Red, we're on our way," RC assured, following after the lieutenant with the others. "Send Marissa through that bridge, and have her tell Kyoka that it'll all be okay." Once they arrived at the bridge, she, Jazz and Signal Flare each took a control station, while the humans remained gathered together. "All right, no time for subtlety on this one. We're gonna have to bust through the ground." Signal Flare tilted his head to her. "You're certain that's the best course of..." But RC cut him off with a serious gaze. "It's the only course of action right now. A small amount of damage to the city is better than it getting totaled." It was then that Ace cleared his throat. "Ahem, I was actually about to say, I have a solution for that," he trailed off as everyone's sights went to him. "But I'll need a favor from this ship itself. Can you hear me?" "I can, yes." This made Ace smile as he came up to one of the control stations. "I can help you get out of here, but I need to know your greatest desire." "Desire," the ship said curiously. "A term that means to long for something, a concept that I have not thought of in quite some time. Yet I sense that you do have one," Ace assured, placing a hand on the control stand. "Even for a being as imposing as yourself. So please, tell me what it is." There was a moment's pause before the ship came to its conclusion. My greatest desire is to not see another city fall by Decepticon hands. I was the guardian of a place called Crystal City, and I failed in protecting it from an unexpected Decepticon attack. A low rumble began to shake the entire ship as its engines kicked to life by themselves. It was that same event that left me in this state for the last several million years. I wished to make up for it. With a determined grin, Ace's entire being began to light up. That's all I needed to hear. Get ready to fly, everyone. Bong. All at once, that same energy encompassed the ship, and with seconds, they were greeted by the sight of a bright, blue sky through the windshield. At first, they were all left astounded by the change in scenery, until they suddenly felt themselves falling. Aaaaaah. Ochako lashed her hands out, grabbing the nearest thing attached to the floor. Bakugo, however, wasn't so lucky, crashing into the ceiling. ACH. The hell is happening? Thrusters activated. Kra Chum. The very next moment, their feeling of weightlessness was undone as the ship stabilized itself, causing everyone to fall back to the floor. Ochako fell on her feet, and Katsuki came crashing back down next to her, much to her astonishment. Bakugo. Are you okay? I hate today. An awkward grin spread across the brunette's face. Okay, you're fine, but just then, the sound of someone else falling caught her attention, leading to her seeing Ace collapsed on the floor. Oh no. Ace. Kawa and Neon rushed to his side, propping him up against the wall. You alright? With labored breaths, the scarf-wearing man gave a shaky two-fingered salute. Yes, though now I definitely need a break. Can't blame you, Mikanaga said, peering through the front window. But I don't think the others out there can afford it. Look. The group set their sights out, spotting the desolation with its cannon pointed straight down at the city below. We'd better get over there, quick. Manning their stations, the Autobots got started on doing just that. Already on it, RC assured, typing into her command console to tap into every comlink available. All Autobots, this is RC. You guys had better get clear, because we're coming in hot. Reaching for a level, RC pulled it back and hollered, activate emergency defense mode. Codename, Omega. Compliance, affirmative, It wasn't long after hearing RC's call that the entire area was met with the sound of roaring thrusters, a noise so loud that it forced everyone to cover their ears. Human, Autobot and Decepticon alike were left shaken by the thunderous sound, though at this point, Kyoko was actually welcoming anything to distract her from the searing pain in her arm. Is it over? She muttered desperately. Please tell me it's over. Before either Jinx or Quick Kick could answer her, a ground bridge suddenly opened up directly next to them, and through it rushed none other than Marissa Fairborn. It will be soon, she said as she hastily knelt down next to the perplet. Don't worry, hun, we'll get you fixed up. Marissa. Kyoko's eyes widened. What are you? No time. Here, the young woman set her hand on Kyoko's arm and began to apply her quirk, spreading her healing energy throughout the wound. It only took a few seconds to see results, with the swelling going down considerably. Eventually, the pain went away completely, and Kyoko let out a heavy sigh of relief. Oh, that feels so, oh god. But then, her entire arm began to lose feeling, to the point that it hung at her side completely numb. Oh god, this is weird. Yeah, sorry. Marissa apologized. You should regain feeling in a few minutes. For now, though, we should get clear. Chum. All at once, everyone's heads whipped up, and their jaws fell at the sight of the massive Autobot ship coming in over their heads, casting a shadow over the entire area. They did it. Kyoko beamed, finding the strength to stand up again. They actually pulled it off. Leading the rest of the team, Bulkhead ushered for the ladies to follow. You bet they did. Now let's get to a safe distance. Defensor, cover us. At his command, the Protectobot combiner carefully made his way over them and lifted his hands, covering the entire team in a force field as Bulkhead sent a knowing smirk down to the humans. Trust me when I say this, you guys are about to see something spectacular. Across the battlefield, Grimlock, Strongarm, Applelink and Flare-Up were getting the exact same feeling as they witnessed the huge, red, gold and gray ship come hovering over them. Oh, Primus, move. Grimlock ordered, disengaging with the destroyers they were facing off against. Grab the humans and move. He picked up Keita and Yukio as they returned to their human forms, while Strongarm quickly transformed and went to get Aizawa and his group. Beast mode. Applelink hollered, transforming into his ape mode before picking Safeguard up as well. With a mighty leap, he went into the air and his legs transformed into his hoverboard, setting Mini-Con Combiner down on it before zooming off. Is that what I think it is? If it is, then this battle's already won. Flare-Up shouted giddily as she sprinted away, only to then spot Rodimus still in battle with Optimus, Bumblebee, Deku and All Might. Let's go, rub it in Unicronus' smug face. By that point, though, the Decepticon general had noticed the ship as well, and by that point, all sense of reason had just left him. No, this can't be. He can't be here. RAAAAAHH. Once more, he started shooting wildly all around himself, preventing the bots and heroes from getting a clear opening at him. Why must all my plans be, bam, ow. However, Flare-Up proved to be faster than any shot he could take, dodging expertly before clocking him right in the jaw. Don't you get it yet, ya bloody wanker? She spat as Grimlock and the others joined them. It's 'cause ya underestimated us. You didn't think we'd be a threat. You thought we'd break when you broke B. But we didn't. Hers and everyone else's sights went up to the giant ship in awe as its bottom opened up. And now, it's all about to come crashing down on ya. Deploying Supreme Module, came a loud, booming voice, before an entire other vehicle dropped down and crashed into the City Hall courtyard. Once the dust settled, they could see it clearly, and Izuku was completely perplexed. Is that some sort of train? Indeed, the long vehicle heavily resembled a train of some sort, if the train were on treads and decked out in weaponry. It was mainly colored silver with gold accents over the treads themselves, along with a long line of red going over the front of it. Toward the back it was covered in black armor, which matched the turrets, while the rear thruster was a sterling silver. And connecting both halves was a piece that could only be described as a giant pelvis. Climbing out of Strongarm, Tenya noticed the similarities as well. Yes, a very odd train. And I think it's moving on its own. The blue-haired boy's assessment was correct, as from both ends, the Supreme Module began to extend itself and rise up. The rear thruster and front of the train shifted up as the center went rose, becoming a set of feet, for what were now ostensibly a pair of gigantic legs that were as tall as Def and Soar. Across the battlefield, the sight was enough to make Mt. Lady forget about the destroyer she was currently throttling with edge shot, choosing instead to gawk as the ship started flying down toward the giant legs. Don't tell me, she uttered. You must be joking. Edge shot shook his head, but the Autobots knew exactly what was about to happen. Way to go, RC. Bumblebee pumped a fist. Go get him. Finally, the ship went into free fall, and transformed. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. Boom. The entire thing contorted in a way that appeared unnatural, but actually ended up in a fairly cohesive, if asymmetrical, upper body. The stabilizers on each side had formed up together into one arm while the main thruster at the back moved out to form the other, resulting in a pair of limbs that were absolutely massive. The left arm, formed by the stabilizers, was shaped like a giant cone that had a metal spike at the end and was held by 4 large clamps at the elbows. While the right arm was slightly and cylindrical, the 4 rotating prongs now serving as fingers as the internal thruster glowed brightly. The rest of the ship's transformation was rather straightforward, though, its main body reshaping into an actual torso. The moving cockpit rotated down into the chest, covered by thick, red paneling which was locked in place by heavy, golden shoulder pauldrons. And, from out of its back, emerged a pair of curved, wing-like structures made of what seemed to be some sort of scaffolding. Finally, the head emerged from between the shoulders, a gray helm with red stripe detailing over top it, covering a stoic, yellow face with gleaming white optics. Over said face was a bubble of clear glass, making it resemble an astronaut's helmet. And, at the very back of the gargantuan bot's head, a red cannon barrel emerged, sticking straight out at a slanting angle. With his optics lighting up, the humongous Cybertronian began to move, his stance widening as his upper body secured into his pelvis. All systems operational, his claw hand began to rotate, generating power. Weapons optimal, his expression hardened at the destroyers below. Conclusion inevitable. He lifted his head, declaring his name at the opposing Decepticon warship, "I am Omega Supreme." As his voice boomed across the city, the Autobots were left to cheer their audio processors out, all while the humans stared on in complete awe. WHAAAAAAATT. Kyoka, Mina, Setsuna and many others were heard screaming, so loud that even Izuku could hear it from where he was. "Omega, Supreme," the Greenette said, his breath taken away by the amazing sight. The Decepticons, on the other hand, were completely beside themselves. Well, at least a couple of them were. "Ah ag!" Starscream cried to the heavens, aiming his null rays at the Titan as he gave the destroyers a new command. "Don't just stand there. Attack! Attack Omega Supreme!" The large Viacons had no choice to comply, but even as they blasted him, their attacks did barely anything to Omega's heavy armor. It was to the point that Omega didn't even flinch as he strode forward, and simply began to crush them all beneath his massive feet. "No, no, no, no please." One of the destroyers tried to escape this fate, but then found itself in one that was far worse. Shink. Stabbing his cone-like arm down, Omega speared the tip of it through the destroyer's abdomen and brought his claw arm up, the hand spinning rapidly and generating an artificial gravitational pull. "No!" Scrunch. The Viacon's upper body was pulled off of its torso in seconds, and Omega followed up by throwing it right into Starscream. "Yeah!" Crash. The Seeker was bowled directly into Soundwave, the duo colliding further into the Constructicons, who were already very wary at the sight of Omega. "Well, that tears it," Scrapper deduced. "We need to leave." But Scrapper, we beat Omega last time." The Constructicons foreman cut Mixmaster off. "Because we pre-planned that attack, Mixmaster. We can't hope to bring Omega down like this." Besides, he watched on as the Titan began to charge up his claw hand with what would likely be a potent energy burst. "I think it's pretty clear we're not winning this one." Everyone watched on as Omega raised his arm up, twisting his head around 180 degrees to aim the rear cannon on it. He raised his left leg as well, the three turrets there swiveling up to aim directly at the Desolation. Unleashing ultimate attack, Omega Onslaught. Pow pow po 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 pow. CHRRRRR, Wuam. Heavy fire from every artillery point on Omega's body was unleashed upon the Desolation, along with an absurdly huge beam that blasted forth from his claw arm. Not only did this result in the warp cannon exploding immediately, but the sheer force of the blast sent the ship sailing across the sky until it was over the city outskirts. And then, Crockett THOOOOOOM. In a fiery inferno, the Desolation exploded in half over the Nevada desert, and once both halves cashed down, they exploded even further, sending up a cloud of sand, smoke and shrapnel into the air. Even past all the tall buildings, everyone could still see the cloud fly up into the sky in the distance, and it was a sight that brought relief to many. The battle was over. But not for Rodimus. For him, this was the last straw. Gah! He roared violently into the ether before spinning around to charge at his enemies, ready to rip them to shreds. "You, all of you, you are responsible for this. All of my struggles, all of my failures, they all lead back to Gurk." Midway through his tirade, though, Roadbuster came rushing in from the side and stabbed him in the shoulder with his combat knife, pulling him back with a forceful choke. "Get over here, ya lil punk. Grim, help me out here." "With pleasure." Grimlock obliged, yanking back hard on Rodimus' other arm. "Hold him there," B instructed as he ran up and brought out his stinger again, stabbing Rodimus once again and leaving him paralyzed. That left an opening for Izuku and All Might to come darting in, the duo leaping onto the general's chest. "Young Midoriya, let's crack him open." Without hesitation, Izuku complied and smashed his fist through the middle of Rodimus' chest with All Might's, before the duo forcefully pried back the purple metal, to reveal the matrix of chaos. Stop. Stop this. But Rodimus' screams of protest were for naught. Bumblebee spun around and called out to his leader, Prime. "Do it." Optimus didn't have to be told twice, opening his chest and the annex to deal the finishing blow. Matrix of leadership, he called to the artifact within him as it began to glow brightly, energy swirling around his entire being. Free this innocent bot from the shackles of Unicron's dark oppression. And, by the will of Primus, light his darkest hour. Prime's chest thrust forward and, from the matrix, a beam of brilliant blue light shot straight into the dark matrix's center, enveloping Rodimus in the process. Stop. No. This can't be. Through it all, Unicronus' dark armor began to peel away, revealing the red and gold beneath it. I was supposed to win. Bumblebee shot him a nasty sneer. Nah, Hot Rod was the real winner. You're just a sore loser. See ya never, Unicronus. No. *CRCRA crack. In one final shimmer of light, Rodimus' face was blown off of his body, revealing the face of Hot Rod underneath. The light also blew the matrix of chaos out of his chest as it began to heal itself, and within its central chamber, a spark came flickering back to life. Once his chest closed back up, Roadbuster and Grimlock carefully set him on the street, while an astonished Flare-Up and Strongarm joined them along with the others. Oh my word, Tenya remarked. Was that really the power of the Matrix? Itsuka muttered. Amazing, Setsuna agreed. So this is Hot Rod, huh? Just then, Flare-Up suddenly collapsed onto her hands and knees out of sheer shock, shakily crawling over to her brother. Roddy, she cried as she gently set her trembling hands on his helm, moving his head over to rest them on her legs. Roddy, please, if you can hear me, say something, anything, please. Just then, to everyone's surprise, Hot Rod actually did reply. His optics began to open slightly, if weakly, and his lips began to move before whispering two simple words. Thank you, but then, his optics powered down and his body went limp, his head lolling off into Flare-Up's hands. Roddy. All at once, a chill went through everyone there. And no, don't tell me he's. Bumblebee gripped his helm in a panic. Please, no, not again. He's not gray yet, Applelink pointed out, gingerly making his way past everyone to get next to Hot Rod. Let me take a look. The Maximal lifted his hand and activated a built-in scanner, a small computer screen flipping out of his forearm to give him a diagnostic. After only a few seconds, he let out a relieved sigh. He slipped into stasis lock. Spark rate is normal, but his systems are performing a full reboot. He's rebooting? Yukio questioned. Applelink nodded down to her. Yes. It seems that the dark spark left his body with so much trauma that it's caused his systems to do a complete reset. We'll have to monitor his processor closely to make sure that his mind isn't affected, but, he gave the group a hopeful smile. He'll be alright. Hearing that, Flare-Up broke down into a sobbing fit, clinging onto her brother while hollering, "Hick, thank Primus." Yes. Bumblebee pumped his fists into the air. Primus, thank you. Well that's great to hear. Kata smiled as well, only for her gaze to land on the matrix of chaos. So, what do we do with this? Shank. Kata and everyone else were left gawking as Grimlock promptly stabbed his sword through the center of the dark spark, its eerie violet light dimming as it was split in half. And then, just for good measure, he stomped on it several times over, reducing it to nothing but bits and pieces of crystal shards and metal. Well, what do you know? Unicron's bauble was just a cheap knockoff. Goes to show that he really didn't give a scrap about any sort of followers he had. Roadbuster nodded. Now we just gotta hide it where no one'll find it. And I believe I know just the place. Optimus said, craning his head down toward Hot Rod. Don't worry, old friend. Once you wake up, you will be given the warmest of welcomes. Then, out the corner of his optic, he saw Starscream, Soundwave, the Predacons and the Constructicons all staring at them in disbelief. All at once, the Autobots and heroes glowered at them in contempt, with Optimus waving his arm dismissively. Leave. Now. At first, Starscream was about to reject the command, but just a few rumbles later and he suddenly felt very small as Defensor and Omega Supreme loomed over them all. Not to mention the fact that Bulkhead's group had returned, all aiming their weapons at them as well. Begrudgingly, he knew they stood no chance. Starscream to Darkseid, he said into his comlink. Mission failed. Requesting ground bridge. It only took a second for the portal to appear next to the cons, and while most of them scrambled in, Starscream and Soundwave remained for just a moment more. This isn't over, Prime. Once the Seeker Commander went through, Soundwave added, once Megatron hears of this, you know what will happen. This planet will be wiped off the face of the galaxy. I wouldn't count on it. Izuku removed his helmet, glaring back at Soundwave. Because if we fought this hard against all of you to protect one city, imagine how much of a fight we'll put up against Megatron. Correct. All Might affirmed, his teeth clenched as he struggled to keep up his muscle form. If Megatron wants a fight, then I say bring it on. We'll never surrender to him. Right. He received a collective shout from Autobot and human alike, prompting Soundwave to scoff as he turned to leave. HMPH, your funeral. And with that, he was gone, leaving the ground bridge to close up and for the two groups to fully reunite. Everyone clamored about on the street, congratulating each other on their collective victory. However, a certain punk rocker was only focused on finding one single person, and it wasn't long before she spotted the green mass of scraggly hair above the crowd next to a pair of rabbit ears. Kyoka proceeded straight through and didn't stop until she reached him, smiling happily while shouting out for him. Izuku. Ah, Kyoka. The greenette beamed, excusing himself from Mirko to meet her halfway. Oof. But, without warning, he suddenly found himself in a hug, the earphone jack user managing with only her one useful arm while the other hung at her side. Congrats, Green Bean. Kyoka winked up at him. You did what you said you'd do. You actually helped free Hot Rod. Seeing Mirko smirk at him out the corner of his eye, Izuku's cheeks flushed red while rubbing his neck sheepishly. Oh, it wasn't that big a deal. All Might and I only opened his chest so Prime could get a clear shot. However, that's when he noticed the state of her limp arm. Wait. What happened to you? Why's your arm just hanging there? It was Kyoka's turn to blush this time as she admitted, hey, well, I kinda broke it. Seeing Izuku's eyes nearly bulge out of his head, she quickly reassured him. But Marissa came from HQ to heal it. So now it's just really numb. Oh okay, that's good news, then. Once he had regained his composure, though, Izuku found his gaze shifting up towards Omega Supreme and Defensor, the latter carefully moving past the massive crowd. He could also see RC, Jazz, Signal Flare, Ochako and Katsuki having emerged on Omega's shoulder, all waving down happily while Ace's group stood off to the side. But man, this has been an insane day. No kidding. May's gonna flip out. Seeing Optimus and B drawing closer, Kyoka waved to get their attention. So, Omega Supreme, EH. Optimus nodded with a soft chortle. It seems so. I had wondered what his fate had been after the fall of Cybertron. The Autobot leader set his sights up to the Titanic Autobot, raising his hand to him. It's good to see you again, old friend. Kneeling down, Omega brought one of his large fingers up to his shoulder, allowing RC and the others to climb back down to the street. Likewise, Optimus Prime. It is good to be back online once more. He lowered his head to his passengers. Thank you, everyone. You have my eternal gratitude. You're welcome, Omega. RC reciprocated. It was the least we could, A sudden tapping on her shoulder alerted her to the arrival of Bumblebee, the sight of him immediately making her light up. Oh, well hello there. Hey, check it out. Bumblebee nudged his head back toward Hot Rod, his body being carefully lifted by Grimlock and Roadbuster. He's gone alive. Fantastic. He deserves a second shot. RC nudged her hand against Bumblebee's arm. Nice work out there, Scout. Optimus strolled over, placing a hand on Bumblebee's shoulder. I believe you mean, Warrior, RC. Bumblebee, effective immediately, you're to receive an advance in rank. The news took B aback, along with everyone else. Wait, really? Indeed. Time and again, you've shown your bravery in times of crisis, even as a scout. And today was your bravest showing ever. Optimus extended his hand to the yellow bot, smiling behind his faceplate. Congratulations. Staring at the hand, Bumblebee eventually smiled back, and placed his hand over top of Prime's. I appreciate the thought, Optimus, but I'll have to politely decline, at least for now. If anything, that only left everyone more stunned. Wait, what? Mina piped up from the crowd, her and the rest of the students all stampeding toward the front. Okay, first off, the fact that this is how we find out you've got your voice back and a killer new bod to boot is one thing, but you're refusing to take a promotion. Eijiro scratched his head in bafflement. Yeah, B, you earned this. Why turn it down? Hey, guys, I get where you're coming from, but honestly, I just don't feel ready for it. Bumblebee pat his chest. Sure, I've got this new loadout and body, but I've still got a lot to get used to with it. Besides, he shifted his optics over to flare up. I wouldn't want us to be down a scout. Maybe I'll take that warrior rank someday, but not today. Flare up sent him a smile while shaking her head. Ah, ya humble lil bugger. A very mature decision, Bumblebee. Optimus nodded. Very well, I will respect it. Now, for more pressing matters. There's still much work left to be done before we can call it here. CHKTTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZWHRR. Everyone's attention was brought to the Protectobots as they separated Defensor, returning to their individual robot modes. You're absolutely right, Optimus. Hotspot said, approaching his commander. Defensor's scanners have detected several humans still in need of rescue across the city. Many are injured as well, First Aid pointed out, so time is of the essence. So we're gonna have to fan out across the city again. Midnight deduced while her eyes scanned across the group of no doubt tired heroes. Think we'll need a few more sets of hands to cover it entirely. However, as if in response to her statement, Optimus Comlink suddenly sprang to life. CHHK, Prime. This is Fowler, come in. Agent Fowler, Optimus answered. Yes, I read you. And I'm glad to inform you that the Decepticon threat to Mission City has been quashed. Well, now ya tell me. Fowler grumbled on the other end with a regrettable sigh. Sorry I couldn't come in sooner, but between getting my butt back stateside and going through too much bureaucratic bullshit to describe, I finally got the go-ahead to bring in the rescue squad. I've got Joe's, Pros and more Sector 7 teams coming your way now. All Might, doing his best to keep up appearances, ushered Optimus to lower himself down so he could speak with his old friend himself. Hey, better late than never, Bill. Just tell me, is Stars and Stripes part of this unit? The agent's tone brightened up at the question. She is. And she's excited to see ya. I'm certain she is. Tell her and everyone else she's bringing that they'll definitely be welcome to help us with civilian rescue and evacuation. It's time we bring this whole thing to a close. I'll be sure to let him know. Fowler out. With that, Optimus cut the call, giving All Might a knowing look. You need a rest, don't you? Hawk, desperately. Toshinori confirmed, coughing up a bit of blood. Giving his friend a nod of understanding, Optimus addressed the crowd. Autobots, heroes, I cannot thank you all enough for everything you've given this day. Because of you, we've driven off the enemy, saved the city, and secured the energon beneath it. He set his sights out to Omega Supreme and Hot Rod's comatose form. As well as reclaimed old friends in the process. But our job is far from over. Fan out and rescue as many civilians as you can. Understood? Yes, sir. The team collectively saluted. Well then, Autobots, transform, WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT* all at once. Every bot transformed into their vehicle mode, allowing their human compatriots to file into them one by one. Chapter 106, Moving Forward, Part 1. A few minutes out from Mission City, two high-tech VTOL jets were flying towards the city at extremely high speeds, the thrusters on each of their wings shooting out streams of blue energy. Said wings were also emblazoned with a familiar logo, belonging to none other than G.I. Joe. However, while one craft was filled with several Joes, the other contained some of the very best superheroes that the United States of America had to offer, and they were all tentatively aware of what had occurred in the now partially demolished settlement. Even if some of them still couldn't believe it. Their superior for this mission, General Abernathy, had described the situation as he saw it, and what the heroes had learned rocked them to their very core. Because these Decepticons were no mere villains. They weren't even human. Rather, the general had a very unexpected explanation for them: giant alien robots. And it was no secret to the government either. Apparently these robots had been on Earth for months and it hadn't been public knowledge until now. Though the government was also hoping that it wasn't public yet, as the media blackout had been enacted to try and keep the secret. Whether that worked or not was still being investigated, but those on the way at least knew that those in Mission City now definitely knew about the alien visitors/invaders. And to that end, the more staggering revelation for the group was the fact that these robots came in two separate factions, the evil Decepticons who had made the threat, and the supposedly heroic Autobots who were likely already there stopping the threat. Unfortunately, they had to wait until several layers of red tape could be ripped through before either Joes or heroes could be deployed to the scene, and that's where a certain young up-and-comer found himself now. He was a rather skinny man who nonetheless had a lean musculature to him, as his rather tight costume indicated. Said costume was mostly black, patterned with yellow spider webs all throughout. He also had patches of solid yellow on his shoulders, legs and biceps, and his mask was solid gray, but he wore a pair of red-lensed goggles over his eyes. His upper torso was adorned with a harness, featuring a big, silver A, right in the middle holding it all together. His gloves matched his mask and his yellow belt had a few pouches as well. He had secluded himself toward the back of the craft, mulling over a small picture in his hand. Agent Spider. We're 2 minutes out. The young man, Agent Spider, snapped his head up to see the #1 hero of the United States come strolling in. She was a very tall, very muscular woman, donned in the red, white and blue of their nation's flag, complete with bits of golden armor and a flowing cape to match. Each tuft of her long, blonde hair seemed to curl up on their ends, including her swept-back bangs. Her chocolate brown eyes were framed with a red domino mask as she smiled down at him. "Oh, hey Star and Stripe," he replied. "K, read you loud and clear. Is everything alright?" Star and Stripe asked as she sat next to him. "You've been rather silent this whole way, and that's very much unlike you." "Am I that obvious?" Seeing her smirk increase, Agent Spider sighed and rubbed his arm. Guess so. I'm just, still coming to grips with all of this, I guess. I mean, alien robots." Star and Stripe cocked her head to the side. "I suppose so, yes. General Abernathy seemed pretty sure of himself when he told us the truth, and those photos seem pretty convincing." Agent Spider recalled the photos, and he was practically stun-locked when he first saw them. "Hey, didn't think I'd find myself faced with this when I started this whole superhero gig. Here I thought I'd just be slinging web at the same bad guys every week. It must not be easy being based in New York City. PSH, I love my town, but it's steeped in crime." Agent Spider folded his arms. "But I'm trying not to rant about that for a while. AJ says it raises my blood pressure." Peering at the picture in Agent Spider's hand, Star and Stripe smiled, seeing the image of a young woman with tanned skin and deep brown hair. "You're braver than most, Spider. Balancing a personal life with the life of a hero. Not many can pull that off successfully." Once more, Spider scoffed. "PSH, I'd argue I'm not even doing it successfully. Gotta say, though, it's gonna be hard keeping this secret from *BZZT, Spider, Star, we need you up here," came an authoritative voice over the ship's intercom. "You two are not gonna believe this." Their conversation put on hold, the duo got up and moved to the front of the craft, where the rest of their squad were waiting. And for as much as Agent Spider was nervous about the mission, he definitely had complete faith in all of his teammates for it. Because not only was America's #1 hero on board, but so were the rest of the top 5 heroes, all of them experienced veterans. Standing closest to the entryway was a heroine who was actually native to the state of Nevada. A woman dressed like a cowgirl in a denim jacket with matching Daisy Dukes, her orange-laced crop top tied up at her midriff. Her long, wavy blonde hair cascaded past the massive brown horns that emerged from her head, draping down her shoulders near the cowboy hat that was tied around her neck. Throw in some brown cowboy boots, matching gloves and some tassels around her biceps and cow lady was pretty much the definition of a western-styled heroine. "'Bout time y'all got up here," the older woman said, though her beautiful features wouldn't have given any indication of her true age. "Take a gander, it's true." Spider and Star peered through the front window, and their jaws hit the floor when they saw the towering behemoth of a robot, one that stood about as tall as the biggest building in the city. Its gray, yellow and red color scheme made it stand out all the more, along with the fact that it was staring directly at them. "Holy shit," Agent Spider exclaimed. "What he said," Star and Stripe whispered. I can't believe this. This is insane," another hero spoke up, his voice slightly muffled by the mask that he wore. His suit was mostly black with white circuitry lines going all across his body, along with a white belt, arm bracers and boots. His featureless black mask was detailed with white bolts of lightning that went over his eyes, and on each side of the mask were lobe-mounted yellow lightning bolts that stuck straight. He wore a red cape that was trimmed with yellow, with even more bolt patterns going across it. How can this be real? In the co-pilot's seat, a much more dynamic voice piped in. I don't know, Elecplant, but let me tell you, it is amazing. The man promptly stood up, his musculature nearly rivaling Star and Stripe's own. He was donned in a black and blue bodysuit with gold detailing, including the symbol on his chest that resembled a pair of C's curled around a red star. He had short sleeves and pant legs, leaving his knees and elbow exposed, but compensated with armored shoulder pads and boots. He had a cleft chin and wore a dark blue visor over his eyes, his blonde hair shaved at the sides of his head to form a windswept mohawk. Cow Lady eyed the very boisterous hero with a raised brow. Really, now? And how d'ya figure that, Cap Celeb? Placing his hands on his hips, Captain Celebrity flashed his perfectly white teeth and declared, because as someone who grew up playing with toy robots as a child, this is absolutely awesome. The entire cockpit all gave deadpan groans, all aside from the man in the pilot's seat. HM, can relate, he said as he stood up, revealing that he was not in a hero costume. Instead, he was donned in a green three-piece suit and red tie with polished black dress shoes, making him appear more like a businessman than a hero. His neatly combed black hair and pencil-thin mustache only added to the look. Though I'm more partial to armor than full-on robots. You don't have to tell us, Garrison. Star sent a smirk to the man. We know, THOOM. Her eyes suddenly widened and her head whipped back toward the window, her features contorting in both fear and awe at what was happening. The big guy is coming over. Indeed, the gigantic robot was practically just strolling across several city blocks, his wide pace allowing him to step over entire swaths of buildings with ease. He stopped before the two aircraft and lowered his head, peering into their cockpits with each optic. Unknown aircraft, you approach a protected airspace guarded by Omega Supreme. Identify yourselves. Before the heroes could do anything, a voice chimed in over their radio from the other aircraft. Don't worry, heroes, I've got this handled. General Abernathy said. The 6 heroes peered over to see a set of large speakers shift out from his aircraft to address the gigantic Autobot. Omega Supreme, this is General Clayton Abernathy of G.I. Joe. Me and several others have been sent by the government to aid in rescue and recovery operations in Mission City. May we pass? General Abernathy, alias Hawk. Status, Alley. Omega turned his body to let them through. Conclusion, approved. You may pass. Optimus Prime is waiting for you. With that, the 2 aircraft slowly scuttled their way past Omega Supreme, all while their occupants gawked at the titanic Autobot in awe. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna make it to my date with AJ tonight. Agent Spider said. Pulling his phone out of his jacket pocket, Garrison saw the time, 2 p.m. Yeah, and I'm definitely not getting to my meeting later. He clicked the side of his black-rimmed glasses as he began strolling toward the back of the aircraft. Jeeves, you there? Indeed, sir. A synthesized voice answered as a heads-up display appeared in the glass lenses. For what can I be of service? Forward all my calls to voicemail and cancel my meeting for the evening, please. Of course, sir. And shall I cancel your dinner with Miss Josephine as well? Garrison shook his head vehemently. No ho, dinner with Josie is still on, no matter what. But what I do want you to do is get the Mark 84 ready for launch. The artificial voice complied, as a compartment in the rear of the craft opened up to reveal a blue and purple pod of some sort. Of course, sir. Sovereign Armor Mark 84, ready and waiting. Garrison pressed a big, red button, making the rear hatch open up for him. Just as he was getting ready to leap out, though, the others all rushed in behind him. Blackrock, what the hell are you doing? Elecplant exclaimed. What's it look like, Sparky? Garrison pocketed his glasses and turned on his heel, giving the group double peace signs with a wry grin. I'm going to take a closer look. He then proceeded to fall backward into a headlong descent, followed immediately by the pod launching out after him. Holding his arms and legs out, he exposed a set of silver anklets and bracelets, which sent a signal to the pod that made it burst out and shift into a suit of armor that began clasping over his body. The armor itself was mostly a cool blue with accents of purple on the shoulder pads, gauntlets, and knee pads. The waist piece, the center of his chest and boots were outliers in this, being colored black along with his helmet. Said helm was mostly smooth and rounded, with twin antennae on the sides and a central crest with silver vents. Over his mouth, an angular faceplate snapped shut and his eyes were covered with special lenses that glowed a brilliant orange, which was reflected in the central core of his suit as well. Sovereign Armor Online. With that, Garrison B. Blackrock, also known as the high-tech hero, Sovereign, shot straight for the center of the city, eager to see what was going on. Let's find out what these bots are all about, shall we? Mama. Ha. Hick. Mama. Down below in the ruined streets of Mission City, a little girl ran through the smoking heaps of rubble, her little legs threatening to give out at any moment. She had been running all across the city for a long time, so long that she couldn't keep track. When the carnage began, she had just gotten off the bus from school and was about to go meet her mom, and then things began to get crazy, so she huddled down in the nearest building she could find. But even from her hiding place, she could see it all. Giant robots fighting each other. It was all so unreal, but it actually happened right in front of her eyes. By some miracle, none of them had found her, and the building she hid it remained mostly intact, but now, she had no idea where her mother could be. And to top it all off, she had no clue where she herself was, either. Eventually, she couldn't stand to take another step and she fell to her knees, all while clutching her favorite stuffed bunny rabbit close to her chest. Hick. It's no use, I can't. Thump thump thump. Her eyes shot open as the ground beneath her began to shake, though not in a normal way. She had experienced earthquakes before, and this wasn't like that. This was more like, paced-out shakes, like something big was taking big steps. And then, a shadow was cast over her, causing her to crane her head up. What she saw made her jaw go slack. It was one of the robots, the blue and red one she had seen fighting a bunch of scary animal robots earlier. His brilliant blue optics peered down at her as he came to a halt, kneeling down so that he could get closer. "Hello, young one," he greeted in a deep, gravely yet soothing voice. "Are you unharmed?" Yeah, I am glad to hear that. How did you end up here of all places? Are you lost?" The little girl sucked on her lower lips, thinking about how to answer. No. My mama is the one who's lost." Somehow, she could tell that he was smiling at her, even though she couldn't see his mouth. "I see, well then, perhaps I could help you in finding her." You would. The girl gasped, getting back to her feet immediately. Reaching his hand out, the large bot nodded to her. "Of course. Come, I will carry you. I'm sure you must be exhausted." The girl's smile widened and she nodded back to him, climbing carefully into his metal palm. Standing up straight once again, the robot then realized something. "Oh, my apologies, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Optimus Prime." The little girl blinked in awe. "Optimus Prime, cool name. I'm glad you think so. May I ask your name?" "I'm Chelsea." "Chelsea, that's also a very cool name." Optimus reciprocated, making the little girl giggle. As they proceeded forward, Optimus asked further, "Tell me, Chelsea, are there any spots in the city where your mother goes to regularly? Her place of work, perhaps?" Once more, Chelsea nodded. "Oh, yeah, she works at City Hall. She's got a very important job." A hum passed Prime's vocal processor. I see. Well then, perhaps we should start there. Thankfully, we aren't far." After a few minutes of walking and idle chit-chat, the DUP arrived at the building, where things were very active. The Protectobots had separated from their merged form of Defensor and were aiding in directing authorities and heroes across the city, moving in and out of the central plaza every few minutes. And, right in front of City Hall, a congregation of people in suits were gathered together, likely discussing the repercussions of everything. "Alright, now let's see if we can't find Chelsea." The duo turned their heads up to see a brunette woman in her late 30s come dashing across City Hall's ruined courtyard, her brown eyes full of desperation. She wore a black business suit and was running in heels despite it all, not caring if she fell into the upturned soil. Chelsea's eyes lit up, and were quickly brimmed with tears. "Mama." Optimus took that as his cue to set her down, allowing her to close the distance between them. "Mama." "Oh, Sweet baby angel. The mother cried as she brought her daughter into her arms, hugging her as close as humanly possible. Oh, thank God, you're alive. Where in the world were you? I've been making call after call to see where you'd gotten evacuated. SNF, evacu what? Where you'd gotten taken out of the city, honey. Chelsea pulled back to meet her mother's eyes, which were also starting to tear up. I didn't leave. When everything started, I found a place to hide in. You hid through all of that. Where? In an empty building. The mother pursed her lips, trying to temper her frustration before letting it all out with a sigh. We'll talk about this later, young lady. She reached a hand up, stroking her child's hair. Right now, I'm just glad that you're safe. Her features etched with guilt, Chelsea lowered her head. Sorry, Mama, but Mr. Prime really helped me out. She pointed up to Optimus. He was really nice, helping me find you. The woman's face was left with awestruck silence as she looked up toward Optimus, who by this point was kneeled down before them. Yes, I'm sure that he did, she said with a serious tone. Ahem, my apologies, miss. Optimus went to back away. If I have done something wrong. Oh, far from that, good sir. The woman vehemently shook her head. If anything, you've done me two great services today. She hefted her daughter up in her arms. You not only saved my little girl, but you saved my city, as well. Her statement was enough to make Optimus do a double take. This is your city. Correct. She reached a hand out, keeping Chelsea supported in her other arm. I am Mayor Sierra Witwicky. Thank you so much for everything you've done today. I'm truly honored to be in your presence, sir. Prime's optics were wide with astonishment, while Chelsea shot him a knowing smirk. See, told you her job was important. Haha, indeed, you did. I simply didn't know she was this important. Optimus extended his hand down, bringing out his index finger to shake Sierra's hand. The honor is mine, Mayor Witwicky. My name is Optimus Prime, and I am the leader of this group of Autobots. I must apologize, though, for the damage we've dealt to your town. Oh, no. Sienna shook her head again. You don't need to apologize for anything, Mr. Prime. It was plain to see that the real culprits behind this attack were those Decepticons, and anyone who says otherwise will have to answer to me. She offered him a grateful smile. No, you and your bots saved this city, sir, and for that, I couldn't be more grateful. If there's anything you need, anything at all, I will do my best to see those needs met. I could never ask that of you, madam. Optimus asserted, taking his turn to shake his head. Not after what has happened here today. My Autobots and I are more than happy to protect the people of this world, and we ask nothing in return. He sighed and craned his head toward the sky. At any rate, my only regret after today is that our discretion on this planet is now potentially compromised. This made Sienna's eyebrow raise up. Your discretion? Compromised? Chelsea asked, scratching her head in confusion. What does that mean? Sienna gingerly set her child down, kneeling so that she looked into her eyes. Sweetie, it means that they've been hiding on our planet in secret, and that secret could possibly be exposed. She pursed her lips ponderously. And if it's exposed, that could lead to a lot of problems among the populace, especially when it comes to villains and the like. Correct, Madam Mayor. Optimus affirmed. And in terms of the general public, as well. Chelsea furrowed her brows in confusion. But, how do you keep yourselves secret? You're giant robots. A knowing smile spread beneath Prime's faceplate, and he was about to demonstrate himself when, the trio's attention was diverted when a certain yellow and black Camaro rolled up to them, its tires screeching on the road as it pulled to a halt. Its doors opened, allowing Izuku and Kyoka to climb out. Hey, Prime, the former greeted. Sup. Kyoka nudged her chin toward the Autobot leader, glancing over to the mother and daughter. Helping some people out. You could say that, yes. Optimus gestured to the pair. Izuku, Kyoka, allow me to introduce you to Mayor Sierra Witwicky and her daughter, Chelsea. The duo's eyes widened in shock before doing their best to formally greet the pair in English. Oh, hello. Izuku smiled. How do you do? Kyoka forced out with a bit more difficulty. Seeing her struggle, Sierra chuckled and spoke in perfect Japanese. It's a pleasure to meet you both. The teens were left wide-eyed and stun-locked by that, leading her to wink at them. I took Japanese in college. Thought it'd be fun. Mama, what's going on? Chelsea asked. I'm talking to them in their native language, sweetie. They're foreign heroes from Japan. The little girl's eyes nearly popped out of her head in astonishment. Japan. Then do you guys know All Might? Her gaze was bright as she beamed widely. All Might was the inspiration for my all-time favorite hero, Star and Stripe. I wanna be just like her when I get older. Her enthusiasm made the teen smile back. Haha, that's great. Izuku leaned down and asked, do you have your quirk? Yeah, I can manipulate rocks and dirt and stuff. That sounds like such a cool trick. Just then, another voice interjected into the conversation, and within seconds, WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT Bumblebee transformed into his robot mode, much to the shock of the Witwikis. He bent over, his optics focused on the girl. Can I see your quirk? The entire group was silent as Bee's appearance took Chelsea completely off guard, and almost instinctively, her quirk activated, bringing up a wall of earth in front of her so she could hide. Ah, Chelsea. Her mother chastised. Not here. She scooped up her daughter, who was still cowering slightly. Sorry, she tends to get spooked easily. In that instant, Bumblebee suddenly felt quite awkward about himself. Gah, geez, no, I'm sorry. I kinda got overzealous there. He rubbed his neck sheepishly, bowing his head to the little girl. Optimus set a hand on his comrade's shoulder. Please forgive my scout, Chelsea. Bumblebee here has recently survived a near-death experience, so he's very enthusiastic at the moment. You guys can die? Chelsea asked. Indeed, we are not just mere robots, but autonomous robotic organisms, hence why we call ourselves, Autobots. Oh, after all of that, I thought it was just 'cause you guys transformed into cars. Bee and Prime glanced at one another while Izuku and Kyoka couldn't help but chuckle at Chelsea's point. The little girl eventually smiled and added, which is really cool, by the way. Bee eventually grinned back and nodded. Huh, so we've been told. But your power is pretty awesome, too. Izuku agreed wholeheartedly. Yeah, keep working on it and I think you'd make a fantastic hero someday. His sights shifted toward her mother warily. P provided your parents approve, of course. Oh, there's a fair share of heroes in the Witwiki family, I can assure you. Sierra said, only for her expression to become serious as she gazed up toward Optimus. But Mr. Prime, let me reassure you that, to the best of my ability, I'll make sure that no one outside of Mission City knows about what happened here today. I know that keeping a secret like this isn't going to be easy, and I'm sure the government is already working on scrubbing as much of it out as they can, but as the mayor of this city, it's the least I can do to help you in return for what you've done today. Mayor Witwiki, I greatly appreciate your kindness. Optimus bowed his head. Thank you. Moving his optics out toward the city, the Prime was prepared to roll out again. With that said, there's still more work to be done out there. Right you are. Sierra smiled, shifting her daughter in her arms. But first things first, I've got to get this little one back home with her father. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulling out a card that she gave to Kyoka. If any of you need anything else while in the city, don't be afraid to contact me, okay? Kyoka graciously accepted the offer. Oh, of course. Thanks, Mayor Witwiki. With a final nod, Sarah turned back to her daughter. What do we say, Chelsea, sweetie? Chelsea raised her hand, waving goodbye to the Autobots and the teens. Bye, Mr. Prime. Bye-bye, everybody. And thank you. Optimus happily reciprocated. Farewell, Chelsea. It was very nice to meet you. Yeah, and stay safe, okay. Bumblebee added, to which Chelsea gave a nod as she and her mother left for their car. Once they drove off, Bee took a deep intake and placed his hands on his hips. Well, there's still a lot to do. But first, his optics shifted up to his leader. I've informed the others of our meeting plans, Prime. They're all gathering at the assigned coordinates. Thank you, Bumblebee, I appreciate it. Prime returned. Now, let us. Chium. Just then, the Autobot leader was given pause as the sound of rushing jets shot out overhead, causing everyone to snap their heads upward. They could also hear a loud commotion being stirred, with many people in the near vicinity letting out joyous cheers. Did you see that? No way. He's actually here. It's SOV, Before long, the cheering grew so loud throughout City Hall's plaza that the individual voices were drowned out, and the small group's attention was squarely locked on the incoming flying object. And immediately, Izuku broke out into a wide grin when he saw the familiar purple and blue armor. He had only seen this hero in pictures, but he was just as awesome in person. "Ah, Sovereign, you've gotta be kidding me." I'm sorry, who?" Kyoka muttered. "Yeah, I'm lost," B admitted as the armored hero landed. "Who's he and why does he look like a mini-con?" Izuku whipped around, coming to the man's defense. "Guys, that's the Garrison B. Blackrock. He's the United States #2 hero. The high-tech hero, Sovereign." He tapped his head with each hand, making sure to emphasize just how cool the hero was. His quirk, Tech Specs, makes him super in tune with technology. At first, he only ran a support tech development company called G.B. Industries, but then, his tech got into the wrong hands and he was captured some years ago by villains who wanted him to make a whole bunch of it. So, he created his first suit of armor to escape, and since then, he's been one of the most popular heroes in America. Well, someone's done their homework. Izuku gave a tiny, squeaky gasp and spun around again, his eyes nearly bugging out of his skull when he saw Sovereign directly behind him. "You're pretty sharp on the hero trivia, kid." Izuku trembled in the man's presence. Mr. Blackrock, sir. It's such a privilege to meet you." Sovereign chuckled and gave Izuku a pat on the head. "Hee, relax, kid. You and a lot of other people say that, but I like to keep myself humble these days." He peered down to the boy's costume. "Besides, if you were here before me, then I'm the one who's gotta put some respect on your name, which is..." Oh, my name is Izuku Midoriya, sir. "Good to meet ya, Izuku." Sovereign's mask retracted, allowing them all to see his face as he extended his hand. "Put there." After the two shook hands, with Izuku being very enthusiastic, of course, Garrison shifted his sights up to the two Autobots before him. "So, tell me, are one of you guys, Optimus Prime, like the giant said, or is he somewhere else?" Optimus placed a hand on his chest. "I am Optimus Prime, yes. We've been expecting your arrival, Mr. Blackrock." But Garrison raised his hand. "Please, Mr. Blackrock was my father. Call me Garrison, or GB, either works." Scanning his surroundings, the high-tech hero came to one conclusion: man, you bots did a number on this town. Though I guess that blame lies more on these Decepticon fellas we've been told about. "That's right," Bumblebee affirmed with playfully narrowed optics. "So don't go playing the blame game on us, EH. Hey, please, blame you." Garrison gestured between the two of them. "You're both bright, primary colors. Who in their right mind would assume that you bots are evil?" He placed a hand on his own chest. "Hell, I get mistaken as a villain sometimes, all just because I like blue, black and purple." Once again, Prime and B shared a glance, the latter shrugging. "I mean, fair point. Oh, and we got more incoming." He pointed up toward the sky where a pair of aircraft slowly came in for a landing in the plaza, their rear hatches lowering soon after. This time, it was Kyoka's turn to get excited as a familiar group of people emerged from the first aircraft: Hawk, Duke, Scarlet, Wild Bill and Roadblock of G.I. Joe. Hey. Kyoka went into a full sprint, waving the five of them down. "Yo, Joe." The quintet brightened up as soon as they saw her. "Yo, Joe." Duke waved back with a chuckle as she closed the distance. "Well, would ya look who it is." "Kyoka." Scarlet greeted, moving in to place her hand on Kyoka's shoulders. "Haha, I thought we'd find ya here. Good to see her still in one piece, lass." A nervous chortle passed Kyoka's lips, rubbing the arm that had once been broken just a couple hours ago. Well, I came pretty close not being that way, but I'm glad that you guys got here, even if it's a bit late." Wild Bill tipped his hat to the girl apologetically. "Yeah, sorry about that, lil, miss. Bunch of governmental red tape and such kept us from getting involved." Roadblock couldn't help but roll his eyes at that. HMPH, if you can call it that. The higher-ups wanting to see how things play out, basically translates to, we're too important to risk our necks in robo-warfare. Even though we just did that a couple weeks ago. And they weren't happy about that, Roadblock. Hawk reminded, though he too seemed to be in a grudging mood about it all. Believe me, I know more than anyone how much that sucks, but, at the very least, things went all right here. He focused on Kyoka, giving her a salute. And Miss Jiro, I'll echo the sentiments of Scarlet and say that I'm glad you're all right. I'm assuming the rest of your friends are here as well. Oh, yeah, they're good too. Kyoka assured right as the other ship's passengers began to disembark. We've all been helping in rescue and recovery here since the battle stopped and, oh my god. The Joes were initially perplexed as to why she stopped, but one look to their left was all it took to realize why. Hey, of course. Hawk smirked as Star and Stripe stepped off the other craft, taking to the front of her group of heroes. America's #1 was also making direct eye contact with Optimus Prime, who seemed equally intrigued. And of course, Izuku was left completely starstruck. I take it you'll all wanna meet her, yeah? Please. Kyoka meekly said. Hey, of course. Hawk nudged his chin toward the Autobot leader. Prime, everyone, allow me to introduce some of America's greatest superheroes. Agent Spider. Cow Lady. Electplant. Captain Celebrity. Izuku suddenly yelled in unrelenting fanboy elation, his eyes gleaming as the heroes themselves were taken aback. And of course, the one and only Star and Stripe. This is so amazing. While some of the heroes were jarred by his exclamation, Cow Lady couldn't help but grin and chuckle a little. Hey, well, sugar, don't you know your stuff? Meanwhile, Agent Spider was left shaking his head incredulously. Wow, someone from outside the US knows about me. He rubbed his head sheepishly. Guess I'm more popular than I give myself credit for. Helps that you're not being called a menace every day by that loudmouthed reporter. Electplant said, giving the younger hero a nudge. Man, oh man. Izuku began fumbling around his hero costume, desperately searching for a writing utensil. I really wish I'd brought a pen and notebook. He wants my autograph. Agent Spider smacked his forehead. Maybe I should just move out of New York. Captain Celebrity gave Spider his own hearty clasp on the back. Ah, relax, Spider. You're working with my agency, remember. We'll get that nasty stigma of yours shaken off in no time. This is what true appreciation for your heroism feels like. Soak it in, but don't take it for granted, either. He flashed a pearlescent smile toward Optimus Prime. That said, I definitely think things have gotten off the rails a bit. Let's start over, shall we? Yes, let's. Star and Stripe agreed. Raising off the ground, the captain used his quirk to fly straight up to Prime's optic level, giving him a two-fingered salute. Pleasure to meet you, space traveler. I take it that you must be this, Optimus Prime, we've been hearing so much about. He flexed his muscles and declared, well, allow me to give you a proper introduction. I am known as America's #3 premier hero. Captain Celebrity. Optimus gave a simple hum in response. I see, well, Captain, I must say that it is truly an honor to meet such well-renowned heroes such as yourselves. After shaking hands with Captain Celebrity, though, he noticed Star and Stripe approaching him from below, prompting him to kneel down and extend his hand to her as well. And I assume that you are the young woman who was inspired by my friend, All Might. I've heard great things about you, Miss Star. Star and Stripe's eyes lit up tremendously in that moment. So you're friends with All Might. She reached out, shaking his hand wholeheartedly. Any friend of his is a friend of mine, Optimus Prime, sir. I suppose that shouldn't come as a surprise. Captain Celebrity said, flicking his hair with a slightly irritated tone. Seems everyone knows All Might these days. Speaking of, where is he, The boisterous man puffed out his chest with an eager grin. Here I thought he'd be more active in. Rumble rumble rumble. All of a sudden, the ground began to tremor, and while the group were initially fearful that it had been an earthquake, they were proven wrong in seconds. Not far away, a nearby building that had collapsed suddenly began to lurch, its rubble parting off to the sides as a certain hero's mighty footsteps could be heard stomping their way out. And, not a moment later, a familiar laugh was heard, ha. Hunched over yet smiling nonetheless, All Might emerged from below ground, carrying not 5, not 10, but 20 people on his back. They were bloodied and bruised, but no less alive and celebrating with him. Now hear this, citizens. A miracle has happened, he declared, because everyone who was this building has lived to tell the tale. As Japan's #1 hero set down the citizens one by one, a cheer rang through the plaza once again, including those who had just arrived. Ahahaha. Yes. Star and Stripe cheered, only to then realize that her voice had echoed with a certain other. She peered down and her sights met with Izuku's, who was also pumping his arms in the air. The tall woman grinned to him knowingly. Ah, a fellow All Might fan. A profuse blush spread across Izuku's cheeks, completely flustered as he tried to hide himself. Well, I mean. He is. Kyoka spoke up for him, nudging him in the shoulder. Come on, dude, this ain't the time to choke. I mean, I guess not. Izuku cleared his throat, nodding back to Star and Stripe. Why yes, ma'am, I'm a huge fan, he's my inspiration. What a coincidence, he's mine, too. Star approached the duo with a raised brow. I get the feeling that you two are UA students, right? Seeing their stunned expressions was all she needed for an answer. Figured. Which means you kids could get in big trouble if anyone found out you're here, ha ha ha. Star laughed as she pat their shoulders. I like your gusto, kids. Before either of the teens could reply, All Might did so for them. On that, we couldn't agree more. He approached the pair from behind, standing just a head taller than Star and Stripe herself. It's been quite a while, Kathleen. How've you been? I've been well, All Might, the heroine said, responding to her true name. And I can see that you've been very busy. Star gestured between the students and the Autobots. Between you becoming a teacher at UA. Hi and, well, it's quite frankly almost too much to take in. Ahahaha. Well, I won't argue with that. But I'm certainly glad that you're already getting acquainted with everyone. Saved me the introductions. Moving his sights out to the other heroes, he waved down a familiar duo that he hadn't seen in years. Aha. Well, I'll be. Cow Lady, Electplant, it's been ages. The two heroes approached their fellow veteran, with Cow Lady placing a hand firmly on her hip. Well, if it ain't the young up-and-comer himself. Ha ha ha. They all shared a laugh as the horned woman jabbed All Might in the arm. How've ya been, sugar? We're looking a bit thin these days. Electplant seemed to notice that himself, though neither noticed Izuku, Kyoka and the Autobots all eyeing one another nervously. Yes, it doesn't come across in pictures, but you've definitely lost some weight. New diet. Well, you know, getting older isn't exactly easy. All Might played off, gently rubbing the area where his stomach used to be. Gotta make sure to eat right so I don't let myself go. You know, for as different as we are, old chum, I find we sometimes do find common ground. Captain Celebrity piped up, marching up to the symbol of peace. Still, you look good, All Might. Haven't lost a step, yet. Sensing his sarcasm, the corner of All Might's lips pulled slightly tighter. See, how wonderful to see you. He brought his hand up once more. There. The captain happily obliged, and just like that, the duo turned it into a context of strength, the muscles and veins in their arms bulging out as they grit their teeth into strained smiles. Still got an iron grip. Captain Celebrity's brow furrowed. And you continue to not skip arm day. Before the duo could intensify their handshake, Sovereign suddenly flew in and placed his hands over theirs. Gentlemen, as much as I love a good old bicep measuring contest, I think we have more important matters to deal with. I suppose he's right, the captain said, loosening his grip along with All Might. There's people to save. Correct, and if I recall, All Might set his attention toward Optimus. We have a meeting with the students. Optimus nodded down to him. Right, which means we must depart soon. The Prime shifted his optics toward the heroes and the Joes. I will return in time, but for now, I will defer you to my head of security. He will allocate you to points around the city that require the most aid. His gaze then went out to the Protectobot leader. Hotspot. Perking up, Hotspot turned from his position, where he was helping First Aid tend to the survivors that All Might had just rescued. Yes, sir. These heroes need direction. Can I entrust them to you? Hotspot gave a salute. Of course, sir. We have calls coming in from all over the city, and more heroes are always welcome. He lowered his head toward the heroes and Joes. Please, follow me. I'll get you all set up. Well, this'll be a first. Agent Spider uttered. taking orders from a giant robot. He extended his hand out, pressing his middle finger and thumb together to shoot out a line of webbing from his wrist. The webbing stuck to a nearby street lamp and he pulled himself up in a single pull. Spider turned his head down toward Izuku and Kyoka, giving them a two-fingered salute of his own. "Hey, why don't we catch up later? We'll, see about those autographs." "That'd be great." Izuku nodded enthusiastically. "Best of luck to all of you." As Sovereign passed the boy, he made sure to give him a pat on the back. "Same goes to you, kid." His faceplate shifted back over his helmet as he flew into the air. "Let's all do lunch, I know a good shawarma place around here." Before the other heroes could leave, however, Kyoka flagged down a certain number 1 hero. "You hold on, Star and Stripe." Catching the blonde woman's attention, the punk rocker flashed a certain card, showing it to her with a smile. "There's a girl in this city who I think would be super stoked if you could pay her a visit at some point. She's had a pretty rough day and she told us you're her favorite hero." Peering closer to the card, Star raised a curious brow. "Mayor Sierra Witwicky. Her daughter." Izuku clarified. "Optimus found her wandering the streets by herself after hiding out the whole battle in an abandoned building." "Oh, my lord," Kathleen whispered, placing a hand over her lips. A little girl hid through that whole thing. With a resolute expression, she nodded to the duo. "Right, I'll be sure to visit her, then. Thank you both for telling me." She gave them one last smile and waved them off. "Hope to see you later." Once they gave their farewells, the small group of bots and humans were left to themselves again, prompting Optimus to ask, "Well then, shall we roll out?" *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. He transformed into his semi-truck mode, followed by Bumblebee assuming his Camaro mode once again as well. "We have a meeting to get to." "Yes, sir." Izuku and Kyoka echoed as they climbed into Bumblebee, leaving All Might to climb into Prime's cab. Once he did, though, poof, Toshinori's body instantly deflated, his anemic form draping across Prime's seats. "That was close." I can imagine." Optimus acknowledged as he started driving. "Pulling out almost 24 people out of a collapsed building cannot be." "No, not that," Toshinori insisted, clenching his hand in aggravation. "I'm talking about shaking CC's hand. Good God, I nearly poofed right then and there." He laid his head back, closing his tired eyes. And then I'll have to go back into my muscle form once we get to the meeting." This left Optimus confused. "Why, though? All of us know the truth about you, my friend. All of you, except young Bakugo." All Might opened his eyes, gravely furrowing his brow. "And I have a feeling that, if he found out right now, after all of this, he'd be absolutely crushed." There was a moment of silence as the number 1 hero thought of his next words. "I know he doesn't show it on the outside, but that boy, he and young Midoriya both grew up idolizing me. Young Midoriya has said as much. If he sees me like this." "I understand," Optimus assured. "However, after this, I would highly advise against straining yourself any further today. The last thing you need is losing more time in your muscle form." All Might hummed in agreement and was about to close his eyes again to get some rest, but then, he heard something that put him on alert. "Do you hear a loud engine?" Concentrating his audio receptors, Optimus focused on the sound he described. "Yes, several, in fact, and they are all approaching us." Sure enough, when the Autobots rounded the next corner, they were met with a sight that none of them were expecting. A cavalcade of vehicles came rolling down from either side of the street they had just turned onto, practically boxing them all in. There were about 5 or 6 black SUVs along with many more armored buggy vehicles, all cast in dark green metal plating. The buggies were also armed with top-mounted gun emplacements, and were piloted by soldiers donned in gray camo. And they, along with the vehicles, were emblazoned with an S7 emblem, the soldiers wearing it on their arms. "Oh shit," Kyoka muttered. "Are we in trouble?" Izuku added. Thankfully, that didn't seem to be the case, as the first person out of one of the SUVs was Agent Fowler himself. And along with him was Lieutenant Jacob Burns, who appeared to be leading the soldiers. "I don't think so," B said hopefully. "The cavalry has arrived." Kyoka was still suspicious, though. "Then why box us in like this? And why are the soldiers all arming those guns?" Izuku followed up. Something is wrong, Optimus uttered. Everyone, out. On his order, the humans disembarked and the Autobots slowly transformed, making sure to raise their hands to make them seem less threatening. Prime addressed their liaison with a perplexed tone. Agent Fowler, what is the meaning of this? Upon the question being asked, Fowler grimaced and gave a regretful sigh, shaking his head. Sorry about this, everyone, but this ain't my op. The group furrowed their brows, left all the more confused. What? All Might asked. Bill, what are you talking about? Jacob Burns rubbed his neck with a wince. Gah, what he means is, that since we're on American soil, we're not in charge of this whole thing. He placed a hand over his chest. We're part of the international branch, so any authority we have is superseded by. Excuse me. The conversation was suddenly cut through by a loud, somewhat gravelly voice. It wasn't a deep tone, though. Rather, it was middling, and accompanied by a city Italian accent. They heard a couple of finger snaps followed by a sharp whistle, bringing the group's attention behind them. Fowler, Burns, enough chit-chat. And you, the tall metal bean poles, I've got a couple questions to ask you. Simultaneously, Bill Fowler and Jacob Burns' scowls grew even further. It's his operation. Burns finished. The Autobots, Izuku, Kyoka and All Might were met by a rather scrawny man of about average height and pasty complexion, his curly hair and prominent nose being standout features. He reached up, removing his sunglasses to reveal a pair of serious brown eyes, and he reached into his suit pocket to procure his personal badge. Agent Seymour Simmons, Sector 7, he curtly introduced himself before nodding to All Might. Mr. Yagi, been a while. Oh, it's you. Toshinori grumbled, immediately recognizing the man. Ignoring his own exhaustion, All Might buffed back up into his muscle form, making sure to put himself between the agent and the children. What do you want, Simmons? Many things, actually. Chief among them what's going on over there. Simmons thrust his arm out, pointing toward Omega Supreme looming in the city's skyline. What is this? What is this? Are we filming the next Pacific Rim sequel or something? Why is there just a giant sore thumb sticking his head out? People can see him from the highway. Fowler intervened in that moment. They would see him from the highway if we hadn't closed it off, Simmons. Well, maybe we wouldn't have had to close it off if you'd kept a tighter lid on things, Billy boy. Simmons retorted with a snappy tone. Bill's aggravation only grew from there. Oh, and what the hell do you think I could have done? Pray to my star-spangled shorts that the cons didn't attack the city. You know exactly what I mean, Fowler. Simmons emphasized by pointing straight at Optimus. The moment these guys showed up, I told you that we should have eliminated the problem without question, now look where we are. Whoa, hold on there. Kyoka piped up, now feeling utterly offended. Did you seriously suggest that you guys kill the Autobots? Sweetie, please, the adults are talking. THOOM. Simmons was cut off right then and there by Optimus, his foot landing mere inches away from the man. No, we are all talking, he said in a low tone as he lowered himself to the man's level. And if I heard correctly, you suggested to your superiors that you should have had me and my men executed. Is that correct? With a twist of his head, Simmons shrugged and answered, what can I say? It would have been the most effective solution. He shook his finger up at Optimus. Think about it, if you weren't here, then what reason would those other guys have to come here? They would have been thrown off your scent and this damn war wouldn't have ever found its way here. Dude, you are seriously tempting me to do something drastic right now. Bumblebee said, as he started reaching down below his waist. Bumblebee, no. Prime stressed firmly. Not in front of the children. Pushing his way up to Simmons, All Might got right in his space. Are you just forgetting the fact that Prime, B, and all of us prevented the first two cons who landed on this planet from contacting their allies? He demanded with a stern finger of his own. After your organization trusted them, might I add. The actions of Sector 7 International don't reflect on the wider and more prominent United States branch. Simmons bit back, making a point to glance over to Fowler. Why do you think General Whalen was ousted after that whole debacle? He displayed a huge lack of judgment, something which I won't repeat. Simmons harshly nudged his chin toward the teens. Something that you're displaying right now, Mr. Symbol of Peace. What made you think it was a good idea getting kids involved in this, All Might was about to retort, only for Kyoka to do so first. Hey, we're just as part of this as anyone else here. She pointed at Simmons as she marched up to him. So you can take your sorry excuse for authority and shove it up your, hey. But before she could go into a full tirade, Izuku came up from behind and essentially pulled her into a bear hug, pulling her back while she kicked and squirmed in his grasp. Kyoka, no. We could get in so much more trouble. Gah, Izuku. Come on, let me go. As the green-haired boy pulled his best friend back, Optimus narrowed his optics at the abrasive agent. Agent Simmons, your answers to problems are problematic in and of themselves. No matter what you do, the Decepticons are highly unlikely to have left your planet alone. They would have found it sooner or later, especially in search of Energon. He sent him a skeptical gaze. Do you believe that the heroes of this world would be enough to withstand such a threat? Well, not to brag, but between the heroes, our military and our advanced weaponry, I'd say we'd have a good shot. Simmons said nonchalantly. That's so. Fowler folded his arms. 'Cause from what I saw, none of the heroes in this city could take down a warship of that size on their own. Simmons rolled his eyes. Only because we didn't have the right heroes handling the situation. If Star and Stripe was on the scene earlier, New Order would have wiped the floor with these Decepticons. All Might only grimaced further. Kathleen's quirk cannot be used as an answer for everything, Simmons. She has a powerful ability, but it's not unstoppable. Maybe not, but it can at least stop things from getting as bad as this. The agent whipped his arm out toward the damaged city. But I suppose it doesn't matter what I think. The United States and Japanese governments have already decided to grant you bots amnesty, and that's straight from the president's mouth. He sneered while adding, he's a big fan of you, Prime, so you'd better count your lucky stars. Optimus hummed in response. Well, I have been told that I am particularly popular. Though I do make an effort to stay humble about it. Once again, Simmons rolled his eyes. Yeah, well, humbleness doesn't get you everywhere in the world, big guy. Now come on, we've gotta get to a meeting with my superiors. Chop chop. However, as he started back to his car, he was met with swift denial from the Prime. I apologize, Agent Simmons, but there is a meeting of greater importance that I must attend. What? Simmons turned back around with a stern glare. You're telling me that after you bots caused all of this, you're just gonna snub Sector 7? Simmons, if you want to meet with anybody, General Hawk is right in the central plaza near City Hall. All Might asserted. We have a meeting with our team that we need to get to, so if you can just tell your men to. But Simmons cut him off, jabbing a finger as he hollered, you are in no position to be giving ME orders, All Might. He directed that same finger up to Optimus. And neither are you, Mr. Prime. All of you will be coming with us and that is Finn. Bong. Just then, a loud, echoing chime rang out through the area as the air rippled with a blue light that bathed over everyone. A strange energy passed through the crowd as, to the shock of them all, a new figure appeared in the middle near the Autobots, standing right beside Izuku. Mr. Ace. The green-haired boy exclaimed. Hello, Midoriya-kun. Ace greeted with a soft yet sly grin. I hope I'm not interrupting. No, you're just in time. Kyoka assured. Think you can get us out of here? And now wait just a damn minute. Simmons wagged his finger at Ace, completely baffled by his presence. Just who the hell are you supposed to be? Peering over to him, Ace raised a brow and shook his head. Oh, me. Just someone who's getting ready to depart from this place, and you're holding up my friends, which means you're holding me up from leaving. He raised his hand and pressed his fingers together. So, if you don't mind, I'll be taking them. Thank you, goodbye. Snap. Bong. Another chime and another burst of energy signaled his departure, and with Ace's disappearance, so too did Izuku, All Might, Kyoka, Optimus and Bumblebee all vanish into thin air. Everyone present, most of all Agents Fowler and Simmons, were completely gobsmacked by what they had just witnessed. Fowler. Simmons uttered. What in the goddamn hell is going on here? For once, Simmons, Fowler shook his head. I ain't got no clue. Cybertron, Count Fortress. With his hands steepled together, Lord Megatron sat in his throne room, glaring back at the screen in front of him. There, on the other side, stood Starscream, and it was clear just from his expression that the news he had to report wasn't good. His second-in-command hadn't spoken a word yet, but Megatron knew him well enough to know when he had failed. So, Starscream, the mission was a failure, then, he grumbled, ready to unleash his fury the moment the Seeker tried to make an excuse. Tell me, what happened? Rather than verbally respond, however, Starscream began to type into the console in front of him, bringing up several images that took Megatron by surprise. One by one, he saw Appalink, Moonracer, Blur, and Glyph, and then finally, the final two that left him completely stunned. Defensor, and Omega Supreme. All at once, the rage he had been preparing was replaced with complete and utter disbelief, his optics wide and jaw slack. This happened, Lord Megatron. The Decepticon leader was at a loss. How? Where did they? The Protectobots and the 4 other Autobots here arrived on an unknown craft from the sky in the middle of the battle. Starscream explained. We suspect there is one other with them who was piloting the craft. We are uncertain of its origins, but it appeared to be a scout ship of sorts, which leads to our theory that more Autobots could be on the way. More. Megatron repeated, his optics darting toward Omega's image. And Omega Supreme. Where the spark did he come from? Before Starscream could answer, Soundwave chimed in, stepping into frame next to him. We suspect that he was beneath the very city itself. Likely hidden within the same cavern as the Energon cache. His tone lowered as he went on. Somehow, though, he just appeared in the air above the city. We don't know if they used some sort of transwarp tech to get him out or what, but the desolation was completely destroyed. Starscream added, and Devastator was completely overwhelmed, as were they. He typed into the console again, bringing up surveillance footage of the medical bay. Inside were Skullcruncher, Lugnet and Blastwave, all extremely worse for wear. There were other cons inside as well, but none more damaged than the 3 of them. As Megatron processed all of this, he came to a sudden realization, and Unicronus. What of him? Starscream and Soundwave didn't respond immediately, prompting him to rise up from his chair. Tell me. Unicronus is gone, sir. Soundwave answered. Dead. Starscream clarified. Prime attempted to purify him with the matrix of leadership, but... With metal teeth clenched, Megatron seethed, the Chaos Matrix, where is it? Starscream sighed and replied, we attempted to secure it, but Prime had others with him. Grimlock plunged his sword into the dark spark, and destroyed it. He could see his leader trembling with soon-to-be unbridled rage as his optics glowed far more intensely. So, before he could unleash that rage, Starscream raised his hand. My lord, know that your anger and frustration is shared amongst every single Decepticon on board this ship. We have now fumbled one of the most pivotal battles we could have ever lost, and we all seek revenge. Do you, now? Megatron uttered silently. Lord Megatron, our crews used to be known as some of the most feared Decepticons throughout the galaxy. Soundwave asserted. Before this, none of us had any difficulty hunting down Autobot rebels, but now, being on this planet has thrown a wrench into all of it. He clenched his hand as he continued. I saw the fear in a young girl's eyes fade today as she went up against me. I had her racked with guilt over bringing me into her school, but now, she is focused on seeking vengeance upon me. These organic creatures are not normal. Their powers give them confidence, Megatron concluded, calming down and seeing the rational side of things. So, it's time that we fully break that confidence. He balled his right hand into a fist, peering down at the fusion cannon that hadn't seen use in such a long time. The time has come. Starscream, Soundwave, I want the both of you to salvage whatever you can from this operation. Your mission going forward is to keep being a thorn in Prime's side, until I arrive. With a hesitant nod, Starscream agreed. Of course, Lord Megatron, we suspected that you would do so. But before this briefing is over, I have a request from Swindle. He saw Megatron raise an eyelid. He is particularly upset that Skullcruncher was so gravely injured, so he said that, if there were any time for desperate measures to be taken, now would be the time. Once Starscream made Swindle's request, the meeting was soon adjourned, and Megatron stalked his way out into the hallway. There, Shockwave was already waiting, bowing his head respectfully. My lord, you appear unwell. The mission on Earth failed, Shockwave. Megatron explained. I see, an unfortunate result. What do you plan to? I'm going to Earth. Megatron answered without uncertainty, taking Shockwave aback a little. And I am glad that you're here, Shockwave, because I have an assignment for you. The scientist gave a single nod, to which Megatron leaned forward and gave his command, bring me the Combaticons. And this is the end of part 54 of season 2 of this What If. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.